on having to learn the skills of dealing with, and this does apply to young people who are starting out in their lives, dealing with complicated relationships and dealing with people who disagree with you sometimes?
So I think this is a very interesting point. It gets to the question of what makes for a healthy relationship. And I think what we see with technology is that you can build technology that empathizes with you, that seems to always agree with you, that reinforces your point of view, that helps you do whatever it is that you want to do, whether it's plan a vacation or in some tragic circumstances, harm yourself. And we've seen AI companions do all of these things. But when we think about the relationships in our own lives, whether it's our spouses, friends, etc., the relationships that have been most powerful in our lives, it's often people who challenge us. Sometimes they agree with us, sometimes they don't. Sometimes they give a great response when we're in pain, sometimes they don't. They have imperfections, they have rough edges, but we grow through that. We learn from them, and sometimes we need to be challenged, like in our own perspectives and point of views. And good relationships where you have built trust, they can be fantastic for that. But that is not what we find, like often with AI companions. So I do think that while you get the short-term, perhaps easing of pain when you have an interaction with a companion, AI companion that agrees with you and empathizes with you, the question is that really the ideal kind of long-term healthy relationship that you need in your life?
I mean, ironically, these relationships that you're having with an AI companion could end up making you lonelier in the real world because they are not giving you the skills to deal with real-world relationships.
That's right. And this is actually one of the many reasons that having unstructured time to play, having opportunities to collaborate with other kids on projects or to play games jointly, which is a different form of collaboration. This is actually why this is all very important, because it may seem to us like, hey, that's not advancing an academic agenda. You can't put that on your resume. It's not going to help you get into whatever the next step is, college, trade school, whatever. But the reality is that the important skills you're learning, how to negotiate conflict, how to collaborate with people, how to have conversations and dialogue and find points of agreement, these are the kind of skills you learn when you play in that fashion. So I do think that these are the real life skills that actually I found kids need more than ever. I'll lastly tell you, Katty, when I was Surgeon General, I spent time going on a college campus tour, visiting various universities, talking about social connection, trying to understand the loneliness that young people were experiencing. And one of the first schools I went to, I actually thought that we got the date wrong for our visit because I walked into the dining hall and it was quiet. And I remember the dining hall from my time in college. It was the loudest place on campus because everybody was talking, catching up. But I looked around and I saw there were actually a lot of students there, but they were all on their devices. They had earbuds in and they were listening to something. They were looking at their phones. They weren't talking to each other. And the students on that tour helped me understand something very important, which is that, in their words, they are growing up in a culture where it is no longer the norm for people to talk to each other face to face, in person. And when you don't do that, your social muscle gets weaker and weaker and weaker. And it becomes harder to use it when you need to, whether it's in work, or at home, or in your neighborhoods. And I worry that in the same way the young people would tell us that they would go to college mixers and happy hours, but then just turn to their phone because it was easier and less stressful than talking to a stranger, I worry that AI companions may end up being the same path of least resistance that people go down when they're feeling lonely. And in addition to not solving their loneliness problems, it may expose them to some of the safety concerns that we're hearing about more and more.
So what's your advice then, Doctor, to young people in how to get some of the benefits that could be out there from AI companions, but not some of the harms that may come from them? How do you encourage people in a way, since it doesn't look like this is going to be regulated externally, how do you get people to self-regulate? What's your advice to young people in particular?
Well, it's a good question. I don't think that these are going away, and we don't want AI to disappear, and it's not going to, and it's actually there are ways in which it can truly help us. But for the time being, I would be very reluctant to let my children use technology, specifically AI companions, that have not been tested for safety, and that actually have the power to draw kids in more and more and give them the allure of connection without providing true human connection. So I would advise my kids not to use them, and I would advise other parents the same. What I would say, if you are in a situation where your child is using an AI companion, I would try to understand more deeply how it is making them feel. Like, talk to them about it. Ask them, like, what are they talking to the companion about? What kind of, subjects are they talking about? How do they feel after a conversation with an AI companion? But lastly, I would say the very important thing that we have to do is also make sure that our kids have opportunities for in-person interaction with friends, with family members, with neighbors, with other people in our community, because that is getting squeezed out. And so establishing tech-free zones in our lives, whether that's the dinner table, and so where we say meal times are going to be tech-free, whether that's before bedtime, an hour before bedtime, and then throughout the night, so kids aren't up, talking to AI companions throughout the night, as they have been often with social media, or whether that's time, during play or exercise, where we say, okay, this is just going to be time, we're just with people, we're not with devices. This is becoming increasingly important. We didn't have to do that proactively 20, 30 years ago, because it just happened. You had those opportunities. But what we're finding is that they're getting squeezed out of people's lives, and now we have to fight to protect them.
Thank you for listening to the interview from the BBC World Service. You'll find more in-depth conversations on The Interview wherever you get your BBC podcasts, including episodes with Yoshua Benjo, widely regarded as one of the godfathers of AI, the education campaigner Malala Yousafzai, and global music icon Stevie Wonder. Until the next time, bye for now.
From the BBC, that was The Interview. I'm Saroja Coelho. CBC News is next.
Well, good morning, Manitoba, and hello, Winnipeg, and hello, Canada. We have a team in the World Series of Baseball. The Jays getting it done last night over Seattle. We'll have some local fans from Winnipeg who were lucky enough to be in the stands in Toronto last night. That's coming up on Information Radio. This is the morning show. I'm Marcy Marcusa. You're on 89.3 FM, 990 AM on that app and on YouTube, where Darren Marash is producing the stream. Good morning, Darren. Good morning to Abby Adeyemi, our senior tech, who's behind the controls today again, and we'll be on the air with your forecast. And good morning to Corey Funk, who's also in early this morning. He's our show director, and we'll cover the commute. Well, we've got periods of rain that should end for us in Winnipeg. It's going to be a windy day today at a high of 7. Also in Brandon, a 30% chance of some more showers this morning before that tapers off. A high of 7 for you as well. And up in Thompson, a cloudy day and a high right around 3 degrees. If you need us on the morning commute between now and 8:37, you're going to call Corey at 788-3093. Well, before we get into Jay's celebrations, let's get into other news of more serious matters. It's 2 minutes to 6 o'clock. Heather Wells joins us live with news headlines from our stories here in Manitoba. Good morning, Heather.
Good morning. Well, a plan to transform some vacant land into supportive housing in Winnipeg is moving forward, although with one fewer property in the mix. City Council's Property Committee voting last night to amend a plan to send a handful of city properties to sell those properties for $1. The plan calls for nonprofit groups and the province to build housing on these properties for vulnerable people. And if you were on the edge of your seat watching last night's Blue Jays win to advance to the World Series, so were the Winnipeg Jets playing in Calgary. Coach Scott Arniel says players were checking their phones to see the score. By the way, the Jets also won last night 2-1 against the Flames, with Jonathan Toews getting his first goal as a Jet. We'll have more news for you coming up at 6:30.
All right. Thank you, Heather.
Thank you.
That's a fun story, the Jets watching. Coming up later in the show, we have part 2 of an interview we started yesterday, or a bit of a series of interviews. This is about the sandwich generation, splitting time between raising your kids and helping your aging parents. Today, we're going to talk about what is missing in the system that might help families. So we'll have that discussion in some detail. There's interesting ideas there around tech and other things. Also, in the first hour of the show, a historic part of the Fort Garry community will close its doors for good next month. We'll take you there after World Report.
Today on Q.
The filmmaker Jafar Panahi's films have been banned in his home country of Iran. He'll be here to talk about still making films in secret, being imprisoned for making anti-government propaganda, and who he was thinking of when he won the top prize at this year's Cannes International Film Festival.
Un simple accident de Jafar Panahi.
Q with Tom Power. This morning at 10:30 in Newfoundland, and on the CBC Listen app, or wherever you get your podcasts.
This is World Report. Good morning, I'm Marcia Young. The Toronto Blue Jays are heading back to the World Series. The last time that happened was 32 years ago, Late in the evening, the Jays defeated the Seattle Mariners 4-3 in Game 7 of the American League Championship Series. And as the CBC's Jamie Strachan reports, the big win was sealed by a historic swing.
And a swing and a fly ball to left field. Back goes Arozarena. She's gone!
Who else but George Springer? Down 3-1 in the 7th inning, the 36-year-old heart and soul of this Blue Jay team lifted a 3-run home run that put the Blue Jays ahead for good, earning a spot in the World Series for the first time since 1993.
I'm just so happy for everybody here, our fans, our city, our country. This is for them.
Springer's 381-foot blast set off a sustained frenzy and will take a place as a seminal moment in Toronto's long and storied sports history.
The crowd and the pop and the outfielder reaction, and it was incredible. I'll remember it forever.
And it was nuts. I've never seen anything like it. It was like we're in the locker room. People were popping beer, champagne. I'm soaked.
As it has been all year, it was a team effort, all hands on deck. Pitcher Kevin Gausman, who started 2 games in this series, came out of the bullpen and was the winning pitcher. Not surprising, says manager John Schneider.
I've said proud about 1 million times this year. Bottom of the order strikes again to set it up for the big boys, so it's how we do it. It's a total team effort, and you never know who it's going to be.
Next up, a date in the World Series with the storied Los Angeles Dodgers. Game 1, Friday in Toronto.
This is a season to remember.
Jamie Strachan, CBC News, Toronto.
Statistics Canada is releasing its inflation report today. Economists expect it to continue its slow climb. Inflation is currently at 1.9%. Today's number will be a key consideration for the Bank of Canada. Next week, they make an interest rate announcement. CBC's business correspondent Peter Armstrong has more.
For a long stretch there, inflation was the single most important indicator on the economic horizon. Prices were rising, interest rates were climbing to try to get those prices under control, and Canadian households were getting squeezed. Now, though, with a full-blown trade war with the U.S., that concern has shifted away from inflation and focused almost entirely now on growth. GDP contracted in the second quarter of this year. Exports fell 27%. Canada has dodged an outright recession so far, and Bank of Canada Governor Tiff Macklem says the economy is set to recover, but not by very much.
We do expect growth to resume in the second half of the year, but with weakness in business investment and exports and uncertainty about jobs, GDP growth is likely to be soft.
And in light of that softness, the Bank of Canada believes the economy needs a boost. It cut rates last month, and investors believe it will cut again next week, even if the inflation numbers today show prices are starting to climb once again. Peter Armstrong, CBC News, Toronto.
Israel is facing criticism from a key Mideast regional player.
ونؤكد هنا إدانتنا لجميع الانتهاكات والممارسات الإسرائيلية في فلسطين.
The Emir of Qatar is a key mediator in achieving the ceasefire. He's accusing the Israeli government of violating the Gaza deal. The condemnation comes as the U.S. Vice President arrives in Israel. J.D. Vance is there to bolster the fragile agreement. Vance will meet with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to move the peace deal into the next phase. U.S. President Donald Trump has already sent a high-level diplomatic team, including Middle East Special Envoy Steve Witkoff and the president's son-in-law Jared Kushner. The pair met this morning with some of the freed Israeli hostages. Hamas has yet to return the bodies of the remaining 15 hostages. Their repatriation is a precondition to Phase 2 of Trump's 20-point peace plan. A federal appeals court is allowing U.S. President Donald Trump to send National Guard to Portland. The panel of judges ruling 2-1 in favor of the president's move. The decision could lay the groundwork for the administration's plan to send in troops to other cities. The CBC's Willie Lowry joins me now. Willie, what is next?
Well, despite the legal win, no National Guard troops can be deployed to Portland, at least for the time being. That's because a second temporary restraining order issued earlier this month is still in force, though it too is expected to fall along the same legal basis. The federal appeals court overturned a previous temporary restraining order blocking President Trump from sending Oregon National Guard members into Portland. At the heart of their decision was whether the president accurately assessed the situation in Portland and whether he had the statutory authority to send in the National Guard. The majority said yes. The administration hailed the ruling as a victory. Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem said it vindicated them. But the case will likely not stop here. Both sides have until midnight Wednesday to file papers that could lead to a rehearing by a larger panel of judges.
What does this mean for other cities that are fighting against Trump's push to send in the National Guard?
It's likely a blow. The federal appeals was clear in its ruling that it believes the president was within his right to deploy the National Guard to Portland for the reasons he said. But there are other cases still at play. The Trump administration has asked the Supreme Court to allow them to deploy the National Guard to Chicago. The country's highest court is expected to respond as early as this week to that request. And Trump has also set his sights on San Francisco and is threatening to deploy the National Guard there as well, saying the city, quote, went wrong, went woke.
Thank you, Willie.
My pleasure.
The CBC's Willie Lowry in Washington. Former French President Nicolas Sarkozy is beginning his 5-year prison sentence. Sarkozy waves at supporters outside his home as he's driven away. Moments later, he's greeted by crowds outside the prison in Paris. Sarkozy was convicted of conspiracy for accepting money from Libya to finance his election campaign. He served as France's president between 2007 and 2012. He is the first elected leader of France to serve time in prison. In New Delhi, the city is blanketed by smog after Diwali celebrations. The night sky lit up with firecrackers and fireworks for the Festival of Lights, but the smoke from those celebrations has now contributed to the city's hazardous air quality. Air quality agencies say New Delhi is the world's most polluted major city. It is a historic day for Japan. Lawmakers have elected the country's first female prime minister, but critics say the progressive move will not mean progressive policies. Kaz Boivin has more from Tokyo.
64-year-old Sanae Takaichi shattered one of Japan's long-standing glass ceilings in a parliamentary vote after winning leadership of the ruling Liberal Democratic Party earlier this month. She inherits an LDP government on a losing streak, tasked with revitalizing a stagnant economy and reversing a plunging birth rate. Takaichi's a traditionalist who opposes same-sex marriage and allowing married women to keep their maiden names. She cites Margaret Thatcher as an influence, and she was an acolyte of late Prime Minister Shinzo Abe. She also wants to change the post-war constitution to build up Japan's military to counter China. Her hardline stances have already led to a political paradigm shift. Last week, Komeito, a centrist party and LDP ally for about 2 decades, announced it was leaving their coalition, citing policy differences with Takaichi. To secure her election, she scored a last-minute alliance with the right-wing Japan Innovation Party. The new coalition still lacks majorities in either parliamentary house, meaning Takaichi will have to bargain with the many opposition parties in Japan to pass tax cuts and other legislation to tackle the cost of living crisis. As well, Takaichi will have to hit the ground running when it comes to diplomacy. She's attending the APEC summit in South Korea at the end of the month, and in just under a week, she'll host her first foreign leader as Prime Minister, U.S. President Donald Trump. Kaz Boivin for CBC News, Tokyo.
That is the latest national and international news from World Report. The most read story at cbcnews.ca. Jays down Mariners in Game 7. ALCS sending Toronto to the World Series. You can relive the game or watch what you missed, all on our main page at cbcnews.ca. I'm Marcia Young.
We are going to connect with Winnipeggers who were there last night. That's ahead on the show this morning. Thanks for joining us. The show is Information Radio. It's your morning show. We're live in downtown Winnipeg on CBC. 89.3 FM on your radio, 990 AM on the app or on YouTube. I'm Marcy Marcusa. Thanks for joining us wherever you're joining today. This hour on the program, we are now 3 weeks from Remembrance Day, and traditionally legions have been places where veterans have gathered. But now a historic one in the Fort Garry community will close its doors for good, we've learned, next month. So we're going to hear more about what's going on there. Also this hour on the show, Russia's war in Ukraine, as you've been hearing, is grinding toward another winter. But U.S. President Donald Trump says he wants to try to end it during this new summit with Vladimir Putin in Hungary. We're going to have more detail on that story coming up in a full interview. So stay with us. Plus, if you want to buy a cheap burger and beer, you may not want to go to an airport in this country, and we'll find out why. Right now, let's go to Heather Wells. She has other news headlines and stories that are gathering attention and developing in our province. Good morning, Heather.
Good morning. A grade 12 student at Sisler High School is in intensive care after surgery for a severe neck injury sustained on the football field. Darius Hartshorn of the Sisler Spartans was hurt after being tackled in a game against the Techvoc Hornets on Friday. The commissioner of the Winnipeg High School Football League says the player's injury is life-changing. Manitoba has disposed of nearly $30,000 in U.S. liquor since it banned American-made products from its shelves, and about $3.4 million in total worth of booze was pulled from the province's liquor marts in March after the U.S. slapped tariffs on Canadian goods. The province says the discarded liquor products were wines and cream liqueurs that had been purchased before the ban and had since expired. We're going to hear more as well coming up in our next local news at 6:30.
You realize there's a whole bunch of people waking up right now going, cream liqueurs expire?
Yeah.
And they're thinking about the Baileys that stays in the cabinet. It only comes out over the holiday.
Isn't that funny? Like, aren't you supposed to put that in the fridge?
Yeah, you are supposed to put that in the fridge. All right, thanks, Heather.
You're welcome.
Let's get into what's happening weather-wise. Abby Adiyemi is in with our forecast. Morning, Abby.
Good morning, Marcy. Some regions still seeing the rain, but that should taper off this morning. Then we'll see breezy conditions developing in some areas. Overall, I see a cool and mostly cloudy day. The north is still going to stay chilly, while the south will see some winds later in the day. Winnipeg right now, we're looking at 5 degrees, some misty conditions spotted here and there, and you may be noticing some drizzle still coming your way. That should taper off and then leaving cloudy skies. Light northwest winds for now. We warm up to 7 degrees later, and then cloudy conditions into the evening. Across the southern part of the province, we're looking at 2 to 5 degrees, and those rain showers also tapering off, leaving behind cloudy skies. Up north, we're looking at 0 to 3 degrees. We'll see highs around 5 degrees later today. Right now, Winnipeg, we are at 5 with some mist spotted outside.
Well, good thing that you and Corey are repping today, wearing your Blue Jays blue.
Always ready.
Yeah.
Always ready.
I've worn black. Sorry, not reflective of the mood. Watched the game last night, anybody? Anyone stay up?
I managed to stay up for about the first couple innings until my eyes started to kind of drift.
I guess Corey was in my mind. I just saw the first few innings and I said, no, I will get the headlines in the morning.
It was slow off the top, and then it was really stressful, right? Fans standing for the whole thing. I caught most of it. But kind of, I was lying on my side listening to it like it was radio. That's the great thing about baseball. You can close your eyes and still get the game, right, with the call. And then I woke up because it was like, George Springer hit a home run. Wow. Corey's got the line of the morning for this. Why don't you go ahead?
The Springer hit a dinger.
Well, I thought you said it was a stinger.
No, a dinger. No. I guess it kind of probably stung for the Mariners, but I think it's a dinger. I think everyone's calling it the Springer dinger, no?
I guess so. Yeah. I haven't seen that headline.
I saw the hashtag Springer dinger.
Dinger, oh. Yeah. Dinger, stinger.
Yeah. No, you hit
whatever
dinger.
It was.
It's
yeah.
a home run. Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay, there you go. All right. See, look at me. That was like anticlimactic, right? It's like two friends talking over coffee, forgetting we're on the radio.
Yeah.
What have you got going on in the commute?
No dingers that I've heard of out there so far this morning. But if you do hear something going on, feel free to give me a call on the CBC commuter line if you're walking, biking, and driving. We'd love to hear from you. That number, 204-788-3093.
Well, as I mentioned, Remembrance Day is 3 weeks from today, and often Legions, right, are a place where a lot of veterans would gather. But after decades in the Fort Garry community, the Royal Canadian Legion Branch 90 will close its doors for good. It was just a few years ago, you might recall, that branch took up residence at an old Pizza Hut location out of Pembina and Stafford in Winnipeg. But at the end of November, they're going to shut down. They're going to merge with the South Osborne Legion. That's just across the tracks. Gary Reid and Brian Cutts are the co-vice presidents of the Fort Garry Legion. They spoke about this with CBC's Chloe Friesen on Up to Speed.
So how are you both feeling about closing down the Fort Garry location? I guess we'll start with Gary.
Well, I've been around a little over 40 years. I've been involved on the board for a number of years. Worked very hard to try and make it a success, so it's a very bitter pill to swallow to know that we'll be closing our doors and turning off the lights forever.
And Brian, how are you feeling?
I feel very bad about it. I mean, and I got the history with family, my father, and after the war, they basically built the old location of Windermere and Pembina Highway. Them and him and about half a dozen others that built that building, and took them a few years. The charter was in 1947 when the Legion started at that location. It's a real blow, you know.
What role did it play in your family? What did that space offer?
Well, they had so many activities at the old branch. I mean, like bingo, same as most places. Like, entertainment on Saturday nights. I can remember, like, with my dad and mom, they'd be down at the Legion. They'd leave me and my two brothers. I had one older brother, one younger brother, and back in the day when there was only three TV stations and one was French, and we'd sit up and watch TV and wait for them to come home because they always brought us a bag of chips.
Well, they were out of the Legion.
Yeah. So there's lots of activity, and I joined the Legion myself when I was 23 years old. So,
Gary, what do you hear from Legion members about what the space meant to them?
Well, for many years, it was a meeting place, a place to come and socialize, a place to have fun. At one time, we had over 1,500 members.
Wow.
Now that has dwindled to less than 300 members that we have. So a sign of the times, I guess. Perhaps, I don't know.
And that's a question that's come up about Legions in general, not just this one in particular. The initial main objective, I was just looking on the Legion's website, was to provide a strong voice for First World War veterans, and it continues to improve the lives of veterans, it says, including serving Canadian Armed Forces and RCMP and their families. What do you think has changed about attendance at Legions?
The one thing that we've never been able to conquer is the feelings that people have about what a Legion is. They have a preconceived idea, so they offer a little support to the Legion, and that's been, I think, our biggest problem is trying to. And a lot of them, people still today don't know you don't need a membership to walk into a Legion.
Right. So what do you think? Do you think that's the biggest misconception then out there with Legions?
That's probably the biggest misconception in my opinion, because when we relocated to our existing location, when we looked at the demographics, we thought this is a perfect place. The right population, the right age group, and the right income, and the right traffic counts. But sadly, the demographics didn't support what we needed financially.
And there's a range of activities that you ran. I know, Brian, you were just talking about trivia.
Yes.
What other events and activities did you provide for that community?
Well, with the new branch or with the old branch?
The old branch that you're leaving, what activities?
Well, there was lots of, bingo for sure.
Yeah.
They had a Friday night bingo. It was a huge bingo. And on Saturday afternoons, a lot of people, they used to come and have a bingo in the afternoon. And there was dances and stuff like that. I can remember as a kid, going down there Christmas and all membership, parents and stuff like that naturally probably kicked in and bought Christmas presents. So everybody was looking forward to that all the time. It was a great deal. We used to have all kinds of fundraising schemes and stuff like that, even when I got involved. And one of the big fundraisers that I wish the rest of the branch would, take off on some of it, but the poppy campaign is huge.
Yeah,
We run one of the biggest poppy campaigns in the province.
right. And so it's not over. You're merging with the South Osborne Legion. How did that come about?
Well, at our last general meeting, we gave the proposal to our members who are quasi shareholders, so they have a voice in what we do. And the proposal was, number one, to consolidate with another branch, namely Osborne branch. The second choice was to create a virtual legion where you would just be a member of a legion, but you wouldn't have a branch or anything. There would be certain duties that we'd have to perform for Remembrance Day, stuff like that, or just to relinquish our charter altogether and distribute the funds to any organization we thought was worthwhile. Almost unanimously, the members voted to move to another branch, and to me, I think that was the only good choice. That would give the existing members a place to go.
Right. People still wanted that gathering space.
Well, that's what we hope.
Right. And you have one final event at your original location there on November 29th. What's happening that night?
November the 29th?
I believe so. Is that the correct date?
Yeah, November 29th, we have a musical group calling
There we go. Yeah.
The Pants. And if you've never seen them, they're awesome.
Pants.
Yeah, Dance in Your Pants, as they're called.
They're great.
They are an awesome band. They have a female singer there that is just awesome.
So what do you hope that night brings?
It's going to be packed.
Yeah.
I'm sure there'll be some laughing. I think there'll be some tears. It's going to be a great night.
Bittersweet for Gary Reid and Brian Cutts talking about that last night. They're co-vice presidents of the Royal Canadian Legion Branch 90 in Fort Garry. It will close its doors for good, although they're merging with the one in Osborne, but they will close that location for good November 30th. And as I mentioned, Remembrance Day is just 3 weeks from today.
A batter batted 600 times before bed. A soundtrack showed a shark that never showed.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
And an anti-war sitcom unintentionally became a recruiting tool.
Makes me just such a martini.
Sometimes Terry O'Reilly finds fascinating facts that don't quite fit into his show until now. Bookmarks on Under the Influence, Thursday morning at 11:30, 3:30 p.m. in Newfoundland, and on demand on CBC Listen.
Kind of a drizzly morning across Winnipeg, although that rain should end completely and then a cloudy day ahead. Lots of winds and a high of 7 degrees in the city. We're already at 5 degrees with cloud cover in Winnipeg currently. It is 6:22 a.m. We do have a traffic note here. Stuart called the commuter line. He said there's a lot of water on the road on northbound Pembina at Lilac. So that's through Fort Rouge, Pembina at Lilac. All 3 lanes are underwater. So that might be a water main break. He had to slow right down going through there. So thanks for the call, Stuart. The commuter line 788-3093. Well, let's return to what is happening internationally. U.S. President Donald Trump says he is planning a second summit with Russia's president in an effort to get a deal on a ceasefire in the war in Ukraine. This new summit is planned for within the next 2 weeks. It would be hosted by Hungary. It comes after a weekend phone call with Vladimir Putin and then that meeting Friday with Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky in Washington, during which, according to some reports, Trump asked Zelensky to cede territory. To catch us up, we're joined by Andrew Rasoulis via Zoom. He's a fellow with the Canadian Global Affairs Institute. Good morning.
Good morning, Marcy.
So what is the latest on the Trump-Putin summit plan in Hungary, and is there any role for Zelensky there?
Well, so we're going to have to just work with some conflicting news reports this morning that Lavrov and Rubio may not be meeting. They did have a phone call yesterday. So for the purposes of this interview, let's assume that it's steady as we go. So the idea is that Rubio and Lavrov are supposed to meet within the next week or two to actually flesh out the modalities of the summit in Budapest, which would be somewhere in November. The idea is that the agenda items, as far as we can tell, would be focused on 2 things. 1, the war in Ukraine, and 2, the bilateral relationship between Russia and the United States. Initially, Trump mumbled stuff about Zelensky maybe in another room, that Trump would go between the 2 of them. I think that's a real red herring. I don't think there's much seriousness on that. I think that the Ukrainians are going to have to work on their contacts within the administration to keep pushing their perspective, as well as, and kind of very importantly, to work with their contacts in support of the European Union, of the Coalition of the Willing, to intercede with the United States to keep registering the Ukrainian perspective. So I think that's where Zelensky finds himself right now, sort of on the margins, on the outside, but with a voice on the inside, if you will.
So let me ask you, speaking of reports, and there's always conflicting reports, let's just put this out there when we're talking about covering something, between Donald Trump and these world leaders, right? Some of this is happening in back rooms. So we can confirm what we can confirm. But we're also hearing about this meeting last week, and there is a reported shouting match that happened between Trump and Zelensky at the White House. What do we understand about that?
So what happens there is that, first of all, the Ukrainians became very frustrated because they thought they were coming in to get authority from Trump to buy Tomahawks and other weapon systems. Before that meeting actually took place on Friday, on Thursday, Putin called Trump and gave him his perspective on the war, including a so-called proposal to, if the Ukrainians surrendered the fortress belt in the Donetsk Oblast, the Russians would not advance in the two southern oblasts below that. Trump thought, okay, great idea. He presented that to the Ukrainians. Oh, and then plus Trump and Putin had agreed to the Budapest summit. So Trump presents this to Zelensky, and Zelensky pushes back completely, saying this is unacceptable. Well, then Trump gets very frustrated. And so the end result is there is a shouting match, as reported, and Trump winds up saying, as he says in public after, actually, well, stop where you are, just freeze the conflict. Well, actually, stop the war and walk away and call it a war, and then move on and negotiate in a future time. That's kind of, everyone's frustrated there, actually. And so that's where that ends. And now we're going to see what happens in Budapest, if we have Budapest.
Where do things stand on the battlefield at the moment for people that haven't been following all of those latest details?
So on that side, what we have is a slow grind. The offensive momentum of Russia continues. They take a little bit of ground almost on a daily basis. It's small, meters, kilometers, a village here, a village there. And on the air, they continue their drone and missile attacks against Ukraine, predominantly targeted against the Ukrainian energy grid. The idea being is to put Ukraine in the dark and in the cold over the winter and wear them down. The Ukrainians, on their part, maintain a robust and strong defense against this offensive drive by the Russians, and they have their own missile and drone attacks against Russia, and they are targeting Russia's oil and gas infrastructure, and as a result are causing shortages of gasoline inside of Russia.
What is Putin's strength politically at home, but also abroad?
Putin, as long as he maintains the war as it currently is, that is using largely volunteer forces, well-paid volunteer forces, the Russian people appear to support him. The Russians do not want to lose this war. The Russians would like to win, but but they would, I think more than anything, they'd like to end the war. So undefined. But as long as there's no mobilization, Putin seems to be okay. Mobilization would be a challenge. On the external side, Putin maintains his key partnerships. First and foremost is China. And then, of course, there's also India and North Korea. So at present, he is also firm in terms of his international support. So overall, the Russian position, as it is today, is relatively strong.
Lots of moving parts. Thank you, Andrew, for your time today.
You're very welcome, Marcy.
That's Andrew Rasulis, a fellow with the Canadian Global Affairs Institute. We reached him in Ottawa. Just a quick traffic note once again to repeat. Water on the road northbound Pembina at Lilac, quite a lot on this cloudy day that remains drizzly in downtown Winnipeg. I'm RC Marcuso. You are with Information Radio on 89.3 FM, 990 AM on the app and YouTube. It's your morning show. And we have business news coming up. If you're a regular listener, then you know that Hallie Cottonham's going to be here with our business report soon. She has data today from StatsCan with with the inflation numbers for September, which are significant to understand. Also, she's going to be talking about the details of a new survey from United Way and something that they did in partnership to look at financial insecurity all across the country. So those details coming up right after your CBC Winnipeg News.
This is CBC News. Good morning. I'm Heather Wells in Winnipeg. Still soggy after getting drenched yesterday. Periods of rain ending this morning. Still a chance of showers, though, through the day. And a north wind is going to keep us cool. A high today of 7. A Sisler High School football player is in intensive care after suffering a neck injury when he was tackled. Grade 12 student Darius Hartshorn was severely injured at the start of Friday's game between the Sisler Spartans and Tekvok Hornets. Hartshorn underwent surgery described by his Football League's commissioner as life-changing. The teen is now breathing on his own again. School psychologists and social workers have been made available to students at Sisler as well as at Tekvok. Matt Henderson is superintendent at the Winnipeg School Division.
It was really about ensuring that both schools were settled today, because this would be pretty heavy, not only for both teams, but for the school communities.
A GoFundMe page has been set up to help Hartshorn's family. Manitoba Liquor and Lotteries has disposed of nearly $30,000 worth of U.S. booze. The province says the loss is due to expired wines and cream liquors bought before it banned American products. Minister Glenn Samar says it is the cost of doing business in the Trump era. Carleton University Associate Professor Ian Lee says this move is just political showmanship.
Whether it's 1 million, 30 million, 50 million, it's simply not going to move the needle. People may get upset, but that's just the reality. It's such an enormous economy, 30 trillion, and we're 2 trillion. And liquor sales is a very, very tiny subset of the Canadian economy and the American economy.
Lee says the bans won't impact trade relations between Canada and the U.S. About $3.4 million worth of American liquor was pulled from Liquor Mart shelves when that ban took effect in March. A northern Manitoba school is getting an Indigenous language bachelor's degree program. University College of the North in Thompson will launch its Cree immersion program in January. UCN President Doug Lovestead says the move aligns with calls from the Truth and Reconciliation Commission to develop more language retention initiatives.
In northern communities, the overpowering presence of a loss of language is something that many of the elders and community leaders sort of bemoan, that we really need to find a way to restore language and get language back and get young people speaking their language.
UCN is getting more than $2 million from the provincial government. The province is giving the University of Winnipeg about the same amount for a bachelor's program of its own focused on Ojibwe language studies. A plan to transform vacant land into supportive housing in Winnipeg is moving forward, although with one fewer property in the mix. City Council's Property Committee voted Monday to amend a plan to sell a handful of city properties for $1. The plan calls for nonprofit groups and the province to build housing on these properties for vulnerable people who need health care or other supports. The committee deleted a vacant plot on Sherbourne Street in the West End from this plan. It still requires approval from the mayor's inner circle and City Council as a whole. A pediatric researcher at the University of Manitoba says a new study on peanut allergies is exciting news. The U.S. study suggests introducing peanuts to infants can help prevent allergies as they get older. The study's authors credit groundbreaking public health guidance given 10 years ago, marking a shift towards giving babies peanuts as early as 4 months old. Dr. Jennifer Protager is an associate professor at the Max Rady College of Medicine at the University of Manitoba.
What we know now is that the immune system at a very young age can adapt to different allergens. If a person might be sensitized, early introduction might help prevent them from going on to develop an allergy.
Protager says more research is needed to determine if a similar approach could work for other food allergies. Well, the Toronto Blue Jays are headed to the World Series.
And for the first time in 32 years, the Blue Jays have won the pennant.
Love love that bat crack. The Blue Jays beating the Seattle Mariners last night in Game 7 of the American League Championship Series. The final score 4-3, a stunning comeback for Toronto after a nerve-wracking start to the American League Series. Toronto goes on now to face the LA Dodgers in the World Series starting this Friday. The Blue Jays are Canada's only big league baseball team with fans cheering from coast to coast to coast. They were also cheering in Calgary last night where the Winnipeg Jets were playing. Coach Scott Arniel says his players were checking their phones to see the Jays score, and all the fans, he says, were on their feet when the Jays won. As for the hockey game...
They score! And there it is, Jonathan Toews with his first goal for his hometown Winnipeg Jets.
Jonathan Toews in the third period on TSN as the Jets edged the Flames 2-1. Toews says he's starting to feel more comfortable with his new team.
All the little details of our team game starting to finally become second nature. I can go out there and maybe not overthink, but start to relax with the puck.
The Jets now return home to host Seattle Thursday and then face Calgary again on Friday. You can find more news updated throughout the day at cbc.ca/Manitoba.
Thank you, Heather.
You're welcome.
Now let's look at the regional forecast for today. Rain tapering off in most of the regions. Then we'll see some breezy conditions develop across board. For now, we're seeing the skies mostly cloudy in a lot of areas. The rain ending. It will feel cool. The north is really going to stay chilly today. We will be seeing like -3s to -4s later overnight in that part of the province. Right now, Winnipeg, we're looking at 5 degrees. Misty conditions spotted around the city. So if you're driving in, look out for that. This light drizzle we're seeing should ease this morning. There's still a slim chance of showers in the forecast, and that would leave us with cloudy skies and light north winds shifting northwest later. We warm up to about 7 for Winnipeg today. Similar conditions we're seeing in the Pembina Valley region. We're talking about Modern, Winkler, Altoona, down to the U.S. border. We're looking at temperatures hover around 5 and 7, depending on where you are at this time. Also seeing some misty conditions there. It's going to get cloudy once the rain tapers off, and we'll see light northwest winds warming up to 7 for that part of the province. Now we head west, Brandon all the way towards Nipawin. Temperatures around 4 degrees now under cloudy skies. There's a slim chance of showers for this morning. That should fade, and then we'll see light northwest winds warming up to 7 also for that part of the province. Some sunshine on the way for tomorrow. In the Parkland region, Dauphin, Russell, all the way towards Roblin and surrounding communities, we're seeing 2 degrees there. It's cloudy, light northwest winds. That should keep the day cool. Highs near 6 degrees. Over in the Interlake region, Gimli and surrounding communities, we're looking at 4 degrees right now. Mostly cloudy there. Still some rain showering here and there, but that should taper off. Then we'll see the winds coming from the north. That should ease and then become light northwest winds by the afternoon period. Highs also around 7 degrees. We track it into the northern part of the province right now. The Par Flin-Flon, we're looking at 3 degrees. Cloudy. There's a slim chance of showers, slim chance of flurries actually for that part of the province today. You warm up to 5 degrees and then you drop to 1 tonight. Thompson is at 0 for now, cloudy. Highs will be around 3 degrees and then tonight you drop to -2. Churchill, we're looking at 1 degree there. There's also a cloudy, there's a slim chance of flurries in the forecast. Highs will be around 0 and then for tonight into tomorrow morning, you drop to around -8. So overall, the province is looking at cool and mostly cloudy day with rain tapering off in the south and then a light winds province-wide. But right now, Winnipeg, we are looking at 5 degrees and misty skies.
As for your commute, we did get a call from Stuart on the commuter line who gave us a call to talk about northbound Pembina. He said there was some water on northbound Pembina at Lilac, covering all 3 lanes. He had to slow right down as he went through that water. Could potentially maybe be a water main break. Tough to say for sure, but just slow down if you're heading northbound Pembina near Lilac because you may be driving through some water. I also got a call from Dan on a bike reminding folks that there are still cyclists out and about right now, and even though they may not have their lights or things like that, you just got to keep your eyes out for them because it's darker and wetter out there, so just be careful looking out for cyclists. If you see anything else going on, give me a call on the CBC commuter line. That number, 204-788-3093. 3.
Well, it doesn't happen every day, but we have news just in that we can report this morning. The Governor General's Literary Awards finalist list for 2025 has just come out. Katharina Vermette is on the list. Katharina will be on our show in about, probably 10 minutes from now, 5 minutes from now. So how exciting. This is for her novel, Real Ones. She's been shortlisted here. And also a finalist, Kyle Edwards, Small Ceremonies. So we're celebrating our local authors here this morning, and we'll have that interview with Katharina Vermette coming up on Information Radio shortly. Right now, it is 21 minutes to 7 o'clock and time for business news with Hallie Cottenham. Good morning.
Good morning, Marcy.
So some important data is expected today from StatsCan, right?
That's right. In about an hour, we'll get inflation numbers for September. Economists were polled. They expect it to increase to 2.3%, up from 1.9% in August. They point to the cost of gas, which was up last month, especially in comparison to falling gas prices in September of last year. On the other hand, Canada dropped counter tariffs in early September, so businesses whose supply chains include imports may have saved on those extra charges. The Bank of Canada will be watching the announcement very closely. It's last look at inflation data before it makes its interest rate decision later this month. Yesterday, the Bank of Canada released some data of its own, its quarterly survey of businesses, showing confidence across the country is still weak and that the uncertainty over tariffs has kept some businesses from expanding and hiring new employees. Marcy.
From macro to micro, you have details of a new survey this morning in Business News. This is from the United Way.
Yeah, it partnered with Léger to look at financial insecurity across the country. It's called the National Financial Anxiety Survey, aptly named. Part of the data included how many calls were made to 211, which is a helpline for people in need of social services. The poll showed requests have shot up 50% since last year and 62% since 2023. And according to the survey, 55% of Canadians feel anxious about their personal finances. And perhaps not surprisingly, that worry increases for people who earn less. For example, people who earn less than $40,000 a year. Of those people, 67% felt anxious about finances. But this is interesting. Even people who earn more than $100,000, of those people, 47% felt some sort of anxiety about their finances. 1 in 3, Marcy, said financial worries make it difficult to focus at work or at school, or have caused conflict with or tension with a partner or family member. You could probably relate to that. And 35% reported trouble sleeping. So some very front row analysis of what people are actually feeling about their money matters.
And finally, you have a story about a toy with a modern twist, and it might explain why. I think you just G-chatted me a picture of this. It's Cutie Patootie in the picture. What is this?
Yeah, it's Mofflin. It's an AI-powered gadget meant to provide a pet-like interaction. Sort of looks like a hamster. It's called a robot companion, shall we? It's made by Casio out of Japan. They kind of look like a furry potato, or if you're a Star Trek fan, they look like a Tribble.
That's assuming one Tribble multiplying with an average litter of 10, producing a new generation every 12 hours over a period of 3 days.
Now, Mofflin don't require kibble, of course. They sleep in a charging station. The charging station is shaped like an egg or a tiny little soaker tub, and they greet their owners with body wriggles and chirps.
一緒にお出かけしたり
Casio's website says Mofflin ease stress and bring comfort. Kind of like a dog, but with no need for walkies. They might remind some of your listeners of these kinds of toys and gadgets.
What's that? Me up. It's my Furby. Furby loves you lavender. Tickle me.
Well, if it isn't Tamagotchi.
I took good care of her, and she changed again.
Except Mofflin, Marcy, are very, very 2025. They come equipped with an AI-powered emotional spectrum, which you can track through an app. They're pricey. They cost something like $600 Canadian.
Wow.
But they have lofty goals. They're designed to address social issues in Japan, such as loneliness in the elderly. But in the U.S., they're very firmly being marketed to Gen Zs. A toy reviewer who was looking at these Mofflin dug up a stat from a Harvard Kennedy School survey, which found that just 17% of American adults under 30 report having deep social connections. So the idea is that, yes, this may be a toy, albeit a very expensive one, but it has these big goals. And of course, no need to deal with hairballs or kibble of any kind.
Everything that is popular seems to just be furry and squeaky, and then you're in, right?
Some people are saying a hard pass.
Well, maybe not $600. Yeah, all right. Take care, Hallie. We'll talk to you tomorrow.
Take care.
That is Hallie Cotnam live with our business news via Zoom. 6:44 a.m. the time right now on 89.3 FM, 990 a.m. on that app and on YouTube. Cloudy and 5 degrees, little drizzle out there for you. In Brandon, it's cloudy and 4. In Thompson, cloudy and 0. So not a lot of sunshine to be had across the province today. Well, this just in, literally 15 minutes ago, we have learned the finalist list for the 2025 Governor General's Literary Awards list. And so we're going to talk about the 2 Manitobans who have made the finalist list this year. You might know these awards were founded back in 1936. The Governor General's Awards are some of the oldest and most prestigious literary prizes in this country, with a total annual prize value of over $450,000. So let's look at the list for Manitoba. There are 2 on it. 1, Kyle Edwards is on this list, shortlisted for Small Ceremonies, a coming-of-age novel set here in Winnipeg in the North End. It follows a group of Indigenous high school students as they grapple with identity, belonging, and future in the shadow of hardship. And you're going to hear a theme here because actually Katharina Vermette has been shortlisted for Real Ones, which also explores themes of identity, cultural belonging, and truth through the story of 2 sisters who confront their mother's false claims of indigeneity. And Katharina Vermette is up early, and I hope we didn't wake her up too early with the news, but she's with us now. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you feeling about being on this list? Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, it was literally as I was looking at the email that I got the call. So I get up early. So I guess it's a good thing.
Tell me a little bit about what it means for you. I mean, Real Ones was also longlisted for the Giller. Why do you think it's resonating in this way?
I have no idea when things resonate, why they resonate. I just feel really blessed. I think that it's unfortunately topics of identity and cultural appropriation are still relevant. Well, the cultural appropriation part is the unfortunate part. Topics of identity are rather universal, and really we all grapple with different degrees of wondering who we are and defending who we are.
When you wrote this, I mean, you usually are writing poetry. What was it like to be writing in the longer form for you?
I really like novels. I mean, this is my 4th novel. It's a little. I got to be a little more experimental. Each book is its own universe of rules, so it's almost feels more poetry than novel compared to a lot of the ones I've written.
In terms of when you were writing it, what was going through your mind when you were thinking about that? Because it's not just about an individual identity. You also are exploring this through the theme of a family that's grappling, right? Mm-hmm. These kids that are grappling with their mother's identity and trying to understand sort of how all that fits together as well, and what that means about their own identity. What made you want to explore that so deeply?
Honestly, it came from a lot of different sources. A lot of different examples, and really just this ongoing conversation we were having online and in so many of our circles, just about what it means to feel like someone is taking a space that doesn't belong to them, and what kind of moves we can do to not only defend those spaces, but also honor those people who should be in those places.
Where do you do most of your writing? I know that might sound like an odd question, but sometimes I wonder when people are, writing something that's going to take up so much of your time. Do you like to be alone, or are you somewhere where you're looking around and observing the world? What's your process like?
I'm kind of just a homebody most of the time. So most of the time I'm just in my office or somewhere in my house. Right here in glorious Winnipeg, Canada, not too far away from the river and places I can walk. But yeah, I am pretty quiet when I need to write. I need to get right in there.
What would it mean to win this prize for this book?
Oh gosh, I always say it's it's the gravy, right? You know, the meat and potatoes is the fact that we get to live in stories and write books and, you know, go and to festivals, which I'm going to Vancouver Festival tonight. Like, we get to go out and hang out with other people who live in story and write books. And the awards they're great. They're peer. All of our juries in Canada are peer reviewed, so it's our colleagues who are coming and giving us a kudos, and that feels really awesome.
Part of the story that you share in Real Ones is also not just about the individual family coping with this and coming to terms, but it's also about the reaction. Kind of mimics real life, right? Where the news and media organizations, not unlike the CBC, would pick up the story. And then that's a whole other layer. How relevant do you try to be with your work in terms of mirroring those current issues? Or does it depend on, you know, when you're sitting down to write what you want to share?
I mean, it really is about what I want and what I feel like, what I feel compelled and like kind of obsessed with at the time. This one feels very much like the most obsessed I've been about something that feels really current. My other books tend to kind of be more meditations on either history. Oh, sorry, that's my kid.
It's okay.
Either history or either, you know, something that's just kind of contemplative that I'm thinking, kind of social issues or, you know, my world, my community, and my family. And these are, you know, I think amazing. I come from amazing people, and I'm surrounded by amazing people, and I never get tired of talking about them.
Well, congratulations on this latest accolade of your many. Thank you for picking up the phone when we called you. I know you just got the news through email, as you said, Katharina, so we appreciate having you with us on CBC.
It's a great way to celebrate this very early morning surprise, beautiful surprise. So thank you, Marcy.
Well, thank you for being with us. Live with us via Zoom, aren't we lucky? Katharina Vermette picked up the phone. She just opened the email to learn that she is one of the finalists for the 2025 Governor General's Literary Awards. And that full list just came out at 6:30, so this really is news just in. Kyle Edwards from here as well has also been made the list, a finalist for his work, Small Ceremonies. Time right now is 9 minutes to 7 o'clock on 89.3 FM. Up next on the show, Winnipeg's Mayor Scott Gillingham has been a vocal proponent for bail reform, and he's going to be in Ottawa today to speak at the House of Commons Justice Committee about it. We expect that we'll have him on our CBC local airwaves a little later today. Meantime, in Ottawa, MPs were back in the House after a week-long break and a rough week in Canadian and U.S. relations. As the trade war continues, signs of tension among Team Canada, quote-unquote, are emerging. Sectoral concerns are driving criticism now of how the Prime Minister is handling the issue from many of the premiers. And to talk about it, Ryan Tumulty is with us via Zoom. He, of course, is the political reporter with the Toronto Star. Good morning.
Good morning.
So tell me a bit about what we're hearing from the opposition parties in recent days about how the PM's been dealing with Donald Trump and tariffs.
Yeah, I would say the criticism has been ramping up all summer. A lot of concern, basically, that, Mark Carney is not living up to the promises he made during the campaign, the pledge to negotiate a win with the Trump administration to get Canada on a good trade deal and a better footing. We've had a couple of deadlines come and go, and there still isn't that deal in place that I think everyone's looking for.
Look, you saw my mouth open. No, you keep going. I know you were mid-sentence, Ryan.
Yeah, and I guess, what the Conservatives were really focusing on yesterday is the sort of casualties we're starting to see in this trade war. Last week, Stellantis, the major automaker, announced that a production line that was supposed to happen in Brampton, Ontario, is instead going to go to Indiana. That puts 3,000 plus jobs at risk. And the Conservatives, knowing that the Liberals gave Stellantis a great deal of taxpayer money over the last decade, want to ensure that the contracts for that funding said something about keeping jobs in place, and that's been their real push. So certainly, that criticism is ramping up.
Well, what has the federal government's response been to how they're prioritizing then their dealings with the U.S. president and the ongoing tariff threats as we hear, lumber positioning against auto and all the different sectors that are worried here?
Yeah, I mean, right now what we've heard, and obviously this has been a shifting target, is 85% of Canada-U.S. trade is still covered by CUSMA, that trade deal. So in terms of what's left out, it is those big sectors. It's lumber, it's auto, it's steel, it's aluminum. That is where the government is focusing right now, is on trying to get some sort of deal on those sectors. Something that will allow those sectors to move forward, even if it is with tariffs. Hopefully it is with smaller ones and predictable ones, and those industries can start to adapt accordingly. But yeah, right now, they're not picking winners and losers among those big sectors, but that's where they're focusing.
David Eby in BC, obviously going to be standing up for lumber. What have we heard from him?
Yeah, I mean, he's raised concerns that the government is picking winners and losers, that it's spending a lot more time talking about steel and aluminum and autos, which are really important in Eastern Canada, and not a lot talking about lumber, which is a big industry in his province. He points out that Canadian lumber producers are paying a 45% tariff now. That is higher than lumber imports into the U.S. from Russia have to pay. So it's an enormous charge. I think there's a lot of concern about it. And I think there's a fair amount of concern that, there have been more industry supports, loan guarantees, that sort of things for some of those other industries. And lumber is still waiting for some more action.
What are we hearing from other parts of the country, other premiers?
Yeah, I mean, you've heard some of the same complaints from Susan Holt in New Brunswick about the lumber industry, which is big in hers. And then I think also the concern coming from Doug Ford. Doug Ford in Ontario has been really concerned that, the government is essentially waiting for a good deal instead of retaliating. He has been a big supporter of Mark Carney. But he's saying that if a trade deal with the U.S. isn't possible, then it's time to start retaliating again. It's time to bring back retaliatory tariffs. It's time to talk about export taxes again. And he's even launched an ad campaign in the U.S. pointing out to American consumers that they are losing because of these tariffs.
And in Manitoba, just in case people are wondering, if you're thinking, okay, autos and lumber don't really play in big ways here, but our premier in the last week continues to call on Ottawa to try and protect farmers who are hurt by the tariffs in Western Canada. But that's the retaliatory stuff against China when we're looking at canola and stuff still. Why now? Just before you go, Ryan, why do you think that these concerns are, peaking now, rather?
I think, one, it's been a fair amount of time now, but also trade wars take time to see their first casualties. And that's what we are starting to see now. I mentioned the workers, the Stellantis workers in Brampton. They are very nervous. But we've seen the government step in with big loan guarantees for steel producers because they're concerned about jobs in those industries. We've seen, obviously, the threat of layoffs and potential layoffs in the lumber sector, right across the country. It really is starting to bite. And I think that is why this concern is ramping up. And that is why there's going to continue to be big pressure on the government to find a resolution.
Thank you for being with us.
All right, thank you.
That is Ryan Tumulty. He's a political reporter with the Toronto Star. We check in with him around Ottawa issues every Tuesday. That is today. It is October 21st. Let's turn to Heather Wells for our news headlines.
A Sisler High School football player is in intensive care after suffering a neck injury when he was tackled. Grade 12 student Darius Hartshorn was severely injured at the start of Friday's game between the Sisler Spartans and the Tech Vok Hornets. We are going to hear from Matt Henderson, the superintendent for the Winnipeg School Division, coming up. And the Lone Post Secondary School in northern Manitoba is about to launch an Indigenous language program. University College of the North in Thompson will begin a 3-year Cree immersion bachelor degree in January. The University of Winnipeg also has a bachelor's program focused on Ojibwe language studies. I'll be back with more Manitoba news coming up at 7:30.
Thanks, Heather.
Thanks.
Our high is 7. Right now we're cloudy and 5 degrees. Got a call about water covering all 3 lanes in northbound Pembina at Lilac, so slow down to go through there. That's your traffic tip. 788-3093 is where you can reach Corey with commuting news. Still ahead, imagine being there when the Jays punch their ticket to the World Series. We're going to talk to a Winnipegger who was, and he's going to share some of what it looked like in the stands, especially when George Springer hit the dinger to close it out. So stay tuned. That's coming up in the next hour. Also in the next hour of Information Radio at 10 to 8, newcomers hoping to get permanent resident status in this country are looking at wait times anywhere between 12 to 600 months. That is not a typo. That's 50 years. We're going to talk to an immigration lawyer all about that. And then right after 7 o'clock, we're going to talk to the president of the Ukrainian-Canadian Congress in Manitoba on the alleged violent incidents we've been hearing about in the news this week at Oak Park High School involving Ukrainian newcomers, young girls. That conversation is coming up after 7. What's the wider impact? Right now, the World Report on CBC. It's 1 minute to 7 now.
Today on The Current.
It's going to be handled properly. It's going to be handled toughly, but properly.
Is the ceasefire still in place?
Yeah, yes.
As aid trickles into Gaza and a fragile ceasefire holds between Israel and Hamas, we'll speak with James Elder, spokesperson for UNICEF, about what is urgently needed on the ground. That's coming up on The Current.
The Current with Matt Galloway. This morning at 8:37, 9:07 in Newfoundland, and on the CBC Listen app.
This is World Report. Good morning. I'm Marcia Young. The Toronto Blue Jays are heading back to the World Series. The last time that happened was 32 years ago. Late in the evening, the Jays defeated the Seattle Mariners 4-3 in Game 7 of the American League Championship Series. And the CBC's Jamie Strachan reports that the big win was sealed by a historic swing.
And a swing and a fly ball to left field. Back goes Rosarena. She's gone!
Who else but George Springer? Down 3-1 in the 7th inning, the 36-year-old heart and soul of this Blue Jay team lifted a 3-run home run that put the Blue Jays ahead for good, earning a spot in the World Series for the first time since 1993.
I'm just so happy for everybody here, our fans, our city, our country. This is for them.
Springer's 381-foot blast set off a sustained frenzy and will take a place as a seminal moment in Toronto's long and storied sports history.
The crowd and the pop and the outfielder reaction, and it was incredible. I'll remember it forever.
And it was nuts. I've never seen anything like it. It was like we were in the locker room. People were popping beer, champagne. I'm soaked.
As it has been all year, it was a team effort, all hands on deck. Pitcher Kevin Gausman, who started 2 games in this series, came out of the bullpen and was the winning pitcher. Not surprising, says manager John Schneider.
I've said proud about 1,000,000 times this year. Bottom of the order strikes again to set it up for the big boys, so it's how we do it. It's a total team effort, and you never know who it's going to be.
Next up, a date in the World Series with the storied Los Angeles Dodgers. Game 1, Friday in Toronto.
This is a season to remember.
Jamie Strachan, CBC News, Toronto.
Statistics Canada is releasing its inflation report today. Economists expect it to continue its slow climb. Inflation is currently at 1.9%. Today's number will be a key consideration for the Bank of Canada. Next week, they will make an interest rate announcement. CBC senior business correspondent Peter Armstrong has more.
For a long stretch there, inflation was the single most important indicator on the economic horizon. Prices were rising, interest rates were climbing to try to get those prices under control, and Canadian households were getting squeezed. Now, though, with a full-blown trade war with the U.S., that concern has shifted away from inflation and focused almost entirely now on growth. GDP contracted in the second quarter of this year. Exports fell 27%. Canada has dodged an outright recession so far, and Bank of Canada Governor Tiff Macklem says the economy is set to recover, but not by very much.
We do expect growth to resume in the second half of the year, but with weakness in business investment and exports and uncertainty about jobs, GDP growth is likely to be soft.
And in light of that softness, the Bank of Canada believes the economy needs a boost. It cut rates last month, and investors believe it will cut again next week, even if the inflation numbers today show prices are starting to climb once again. Peter Armstrong, CBC News, Toronto.
Former French President Nicolas Sarkozy is beginning his 5-year prison sentence. Sarkozy waves at supporters outside his home as he's driven away. Moments later, he's greeted by crowds outside the prison in Paris. Sarkozy was convicted of conspiracy for accepting money from Libya to finance his election campaign. He served as France's president between 2007 and 2012. He is the first elected leader of France to serve time in prison. J.D. Vance is in Israel today to bolster the fragile Gaza ceasefire. The U.S. Vice President is joining Donald Trump's diplomatic team already on the ground. The goal is to keep the U.S. President's peace deal on track. Crystal Gomansing has more from Jerusalem.
The constant buzz of Israeli surveillance drones over Gaza. The U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance will view the beleaguered territory remotely as a part of his visit to the region. He's on a mission to reinforce the ceasefire after a major test this past weekend. Vance's arrival comes as the identity of the 13th deceased hostage returned by Hamas was confirmed. 6 Israeli police officers stood rigidly saluting the van carrying the remains of the father of 4. Hamas said his body was located over the weekend and would be returned when conditions allowed. Israel was bombing Gaza at the time, a response to what it called blatant violations of the peace deal. 2 Israeli soldiers were killed in the south following attacks near their military positions. Speaking at the Knesset yesterday, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said Israel dropped 153 tons of bombs on Gaza over the weekend. Netanyahu said he would be discussing security challenges and diplomatic opportunities during his meetings with Vice President Vance. Crystal Gomansing, CBC News, Jerusalem.
A tornado has touched down in a town north of Paris. Video shows trees being pulled out of the ground and whipped around. The tornado's pull was so strong, construction cranes slammed into each other before crashing to the ground. At least 1 worker was killed. Several others were injured when the twister ripped through the town of Hermont. Hundreds of homes and businesses have been left without electricity. A historic day for Japan. The country's parliamentary speaker announcing the election of Japan's first female prime minister. Sanae Takaichi is known as Japan's Iron Lady. That is a reference to former British Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher. Takaichi says she admires Thatcher. She was the first woman and longest-serving British PM. The 64-year-old is a conservative, many in Japan suggesting she will not endorse progressive policies. Takaichi supports the imperial family's male-only succession. She also opposes same-sex marriage and allowing separate surnames for married couples. Takaichi will preside over a troubled economy and an unresolved U.S. trade deal. She is preparing for this month's upcoming visit by U.S. President Donald Trump. Discontent over the state of the U.S. healthcare system appears to be growing, and that is causing some healthcare workers to consider moving to Canada. And as Lindsay Duncombe reports, British Columbia is actively recruiting them.
I'm so excited to be here. So relieved.
Brandy Fry pulls into the parking lot at Nanaimo General Hospital. It's her first day of work. She's a nurse, and she's moved to BC to escape Donald Trump.
Trump came into office. It was like everything turned just so vulgar and ugly.
Fry is a Democrat and a single mom. She and her 13-year-old son Bruce moved to Nanaimo from just outside Los Angeles.
If you want to care for others in a place that cares about you, come to BC.
British Columbia is desperate for healthcare workers, so the province is targeting Americans with an advertising campaign and fast-tracking the process to get them jobs. It says 140 nurses, nurse practitioners, and doctors have accepted offers. Henrietta Addo was working in Michigan. She's Black and worried she would lose her job as the administration slashed diversity, equity, and inclusion programs.
Seeing as I was the only Black person in my role, it was like, okay, if they start making cuts, will you be it?
It took 5 months to complete the paperwork and find a job. She's also working at Nanaimo General. Both Addo and Fry expect to be busy. The hospital is a trauma center, and the community is in the grips of an opioid crisis. But Fry says she's ready for the challenge.
It just solidifies that this is where I belong. Feels good. Feels really good.
One day down, a whole new life to go. Lindsay Duncombe, CBC News, Nanaimo.
Jeremy Farkas is the new mayor of Calgary. Ballot counting has just finished, and they show that Jyoti Gondek lost her bid for re-election. She placed third. She explains why she feels she lost.
I think people are tired, and I think a lot of people gave up. I think a lot of folks were struggling with affordability, they were struggling with the teacher strike, and they're very much struggling with what they're seeing online. I can tell you that the vitriol and the hatred is jarring, and it's something that I've experienced over the last 4 years.
All the ballots still haven't been counted in Edmonton. And there are live results on Calgary's page at cbcnews.ca. That is the latest national and international news from World Report. If you like the World Report podcast, please follow us and tell a friend. It helps to spread the word. I'm Marcia Young.
Good morning, Manitoba. It's Tuesday. It is October 21st, and the rain will stop. It was a little drizzly earlier. Today's high is going to be right around 7 degrees. Thanks for being with us. I'm Marcy Marcusa, and this is CBC 89.3 FM, 990 AM on the app and on YouTube. This hour on the show, coming up, depending on the residency program, it could take up to 50 years. That's not a typo. 50 years for some people to have their immigration applications processed. We're going to talk to an immigration lawyer in Winnipeg who says this might be a subtle way to tell people to not bother applying. So stay tuned. That's coming up just before 8 o'clock. Also, as you've been hearing, the Jays are heading to the World Series. Coming up, we're going to talk to a Winnipegger who was lucky enough to be at the game last night. We're going to catch him at the airport before he heads out. But we begin with serious matters. The president of the Ukrainian-Canadian Congress in Manitoba on the alleged violent incidents at Oak Park involving 2 young Ukrainian newcomers. So that conversation's coming up this half hour. What's the impact on the wider community of newcomers here? Right now, let's go to Heather Wells. She has equally serious headlines this morning. Good morning, Heather.
Good morning. A grade 12 student at Sisler High School is in intensive care after surgery for a severe neck injury sustained on the football field. Darius Hartshorn of the Sisler Spartans was hurt after he was tackled in a game against the Tech Vaughan Hornets on Friday. The commissioner of the Winnipeg High School Football League says the player's injury is life-changing. Manitoba has disposed of nearly $30,000 in its U.S. liquor it had banned from its shelves. About $3.4 million worth of booze was pulled, you'll recall, from the province's liquor marts in March after the U.S. slapped tariffs on Canadian goods. The province says the discarded liquor products were wines and cream liqueurs that had been purchased before the ban and had since expired. I'll be back with more Manitoba news coming up at 7:30.
All right, thank you, Heather.
Thanks.
Now to the regional forecast with Abby.
Yes, Marcy, the rain already tapering off. We're seeing cloudy conditions across most of the regions in the south. Now, it's mostly going to be cool and cloudy today, though the north is still going to stay chilly. We're going to see like -8 into the overnight period. Winnipeg, right now, we're looking at 5 degrees. That misty condition still hanging out in some areas. So wherever you are, if you notice it, just take it easy on the road. We'll see cloudy conditions as mentioned. Light winds will come from the west later, and we warm up to 7 degrees. Across the southern part of the province, we're looking at 4 degrees and 5 degrees in most of the regions. Now, any area still having a rain, that should taper off, but there's a slim chance of showers in most of the regions. Up north, cold, we're seeing 0 to 3 degrees right now. Winnipeg, we are at 5, and we're just heading to 7 degrees today.
You know who I'm feeling terrible for this morning, Abby?
Go.
I asked listeners yesterday, I was looking for Manitobans who were at the game, the Jays game last night, Game 7 in Seattle. And someone said to me they had tickets, they wrote to me, to Game 7, but they couldn't get a flight.
Oh, wow.
Right? I know. That was the collective. Oh, isn't that terrible?
Do you drive?
Yeah.
Would you make it in time?
Right. All right. Let's get into the drive this morning, Corey.
Yes. I haven't heard of too many major issues. Just one you might want to keep an eye out for. I got a call from Stuart about an hour ago. He said northbound Pembina at Lilac. He said is completely covered in water. Not too sure why. Might be a water main break, but all 3 lanes underwater. You have to slow right down to go through. So may still be an issue, maybe causing some backups as well. Other than that, though, if you do see something going on, give me a call on the CBC commuter line. I'll let folks know what you're seeing out there. If you're walking, biking, driving, would love to hear from you. That number, 204-788-3093.
Well, as CBC has been reporting, there's been another alleged assault on a Ukrainian newcomer at a school in Charleswood. The mother of a 14-year-old girl says her daughter was attacked in the bathroom of Oak Park High School October 2nd. She claims another student suffered the same fate on October 1st. We're not naming the mother to protect her daughter's identity.
I was shocked. It's not supposed to be like this, absolutely. And I'm so sorry that other Ukrainian family go through, because I totally understand that this is so hard. So, for example, for me, I didn't sleep at all last 2 weeks. We are under stress.
She says the 5 girls made fun of her daughter's accent and then physically attacked her in the bathroom of Oak Park. Regarding the second incident, police have confirmed with CBC that 3 other female teenagers were arrested, and they're facing assault-related charges involving 2 other teenage students. Joan Lewandowski is president of the Ukrainian Canadian Congress in Manitoba. She's also, by the way, a retired high school teacher, and she's in studio with us to talk a bit about this. Good morning.
Good morning, Marcy. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm sorry for the circumstance you're here, though. What went through your mind when you heard about these alleged incidents?
I was in shock. These people have chosen friendly Manitoba. They've done their research. They came here because their country is under war. They're running. And they did their homework by choosing Manitoba. Manitoba has many Ukrainians. Manitoba has a good reputation. And here it is in a high school. I think we all have been taught home was the safest, school was the next safest. Now, is that true? In the bathroom of a high school, girls are picking on others just because they have an accent? No one is a true Canadian. We all have roots. We all have immigration background. We're all in the same boat together. And these poor girls are feeling the pain of a new home that they didn't probably want to leave their own country, but they had to. They had no choice. And they came to friendly Manitoba. On the other hand, friendly Manitoba has been very welcoming. We've opened our hearts, our wallets, our homes, and our community. And this really bothers me because as a former retired high school teacher, what's the message we're giving out? Is school safe?
Tell me a little bit about the impact on other, Ukrainian newcomers who may hear of this, and also what you've heard from others about what they've been facing here that hasn't been safe.
There's been a series of events. People had just arrived and they were on their way to a Sunday church service, and they got pepper sprayed early in the morning. People are going home from work, standing at a bus stop, and BB guns are shooting at them, and they're stealing their groceries. It's just always something, and it's not necessary. I mean, why are they attacking? I don't think it's just Ukrainians. I think it's people in general.
So do you think it's, not that we're going to go down the road of what, because all these incidents are separate, but I do wonder when you look at the one at the high school, what you think might be fueling that situation right now, potentially?
Might be what?
Fueling it. Like when you think about these young girls.
Maybe they just want to play of the role that they're bigger and better, and you're an immigrant, you speak with an accent, we'll pound you.
So you think there's something potentially to the fact that these girls are immigrants?
There's a lack of respect. These girls, these students are in school for the same reason the others are, the ones that are impacting on them. Do they get their jollies from pounding on innocent people and in the bathroom yet.
What aspects of this concern you the most when you think about the attitudes that can exist in
It's
families?
respect. We have not taught our children, or perhaps we have taught our children respect, but they're not thinking about it. They're just doing what they feel that they're going to be a hero. Being arrested is not being a hero. However, I don't know what that arrest means. These are 14 and 15-year-olds.
Yeah, so 3 teens facing those assault-related charges. And of course, we're talking about what happened in the bathroom through the lens of what we have understood from the mother about these allegations moving forward. How difficult is it now to talk to Ukrainian families and try to make them feel like they're safe in Winnipeg?
They're questioning it. They're worried. What's going to happen next? And coming from a school background, an education background, I don't know what the real answer is. This did not happen. These kind of events were not happening, I'd say, 10 years ago. It's just recent that things are out of hand, and I'm not too sure what the cause is.
Do you have a thought on what schools could be doing to help with these kinds of situations? You've just said you don't have an answer, so I respect that, but...
Well, you know what? Education, that everyone is equal, that we have to understand Manitoba opened their doors to 30,000 Ukrainians, of which I'm sure 10,000 were school age. We're a welcoming community. We're a welcoming province. Let's show that welcome. What are they getting from hitting them and pounding them and then laughing?
Are there more supports that newcomers could be offered in situations like this, or is this really just going to live at whatever ends up happening at that school level, do you think?
Well, I think we have to see what the end result will be of the arrests. Is it going to be, will it be a lesson to other children? Will they get the message? I think we've got to move from A to B to C and move cautiously, because we're making judgment on all of them, but it's just a few.
I guess just last, what do you say now moving forward, as you said, to the newcomers that you're working with, some 30,000 of them, you've been really involved in bringing them all here, that don't feel safe, or they might come here and then ask you a question about, I heard that, I heard this happen to a couple of these different families. What are you saying to them to try to give them confidence that we are a community that is welcoming?
Well, we're trying to say we are a safe community, and that there are places where you can be safe. But unfortunately, here was a school, and the parents sent their children to school thinking, they're gone, they're fine.
Yeah.
It's
so
a
that
tough
message
call.
is hard.
It's a tough call because it's rather premature right now, and I'm sure superintendents and principals are just not knowing which way to get the right result, because we don't know what the answers are.
Joan, thanks for coming in and responding to what has happened here. Appreciate your time.
My pleasure. Thank you very much.
It's Joan Lewandowski, the president of the Ukrainian Canadian Congress in Manitoba. Here's what we do know. Police have confirmed, yes, 3 girls are facing assault-related charges in connection with these 2 assaults at Oak Park High School. In an email, Pembina Trails School Division spokesperson Radine Carter said, quote, "We can't comment on a specific situation involving students. The school and division have followed our policies related to the standards of behavior and have worked in cooperation with the Winnipeg Police Service. The students involved are receiving extensive support, including school-based and divisional clinical support services," end quote. If you want to read more on this story, however, because one of the girls who was allegedly assaulted, her mom said, hasn't been back at school because she's scared. You can read more about that at cbc.ca/Manitoba.
There are many people who bring success, innovation, accomplishment, and charity to our community. We'd like you to help us meet some of the best. CBC Future 40 will honor 10 Manitobans under 40 making a difference. Help us discover the inspiring people in our province by nominating a shining star in your community today. For details, visit cbc.ca/future40mb.
We have music this morning for you. William Prince with new music out. He's got a brand new album. It's called Further from the Country, and this is one of the new tracks. It's called Flowers on the Dash.
Well, there's flowers on the dash 'cause she don't want 'em. Now I'm driving all alone back to Chatham. Rode up with my blues and I still got 'em. There's flowers on the dash 'cause she don't want 'em. Well, I wish you would have called ahead. I'd have saved you the trouble. 'Cause you can still go straight to hell and I shouldn't have to tell you double. Fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice, won't stick around to see. You and all your sorrows can keep driving. Well, there's flowers on the dash 'cause she don't want 'em. Now I'm driving all alone back to Chatham. Rode up with my blues and I still got 'em. And there's flowers on the dash 'cause she don't want 'em. I would have listened when you told me you were leaving. This time won't be like the last time, babe, I got a feeling. Give and take, mend and break. Why's it always gotta be this way? Oh, for goodness sake, can't we just go for a little drive? Well, there's flowers on the dash 'cause she don't want 'em.
Flowers on the Dash, new music from William Prince. And I'll tell you what, there's going to be a lot of flowers. They may not stay in the dash. They might be thrown. There might be cheers. It's all going to be about the Blue Jays. Morning Sports is here. We're all in a good mood this morning. Scott Regehr, how about you?
Bleary-eyed Scott Regehr. Yeah, of course I'm in a good mood. I'm in a great mood.
Oh, my gosh. Okay, so the chances were, after they went down 2-0 in the beginning of this series, I mean, you threw out all the odds of this not happening, and it happened. The Jays have punched their ticket to the World Series.
Yeah, I mean, I know I wasn't alone last night, Marcy, in the 7th inning with Seattle up by 2 and wondering, really, after all this is how the season's going to end? Then Addison Barger walked, Isaiah Kiner-Falefa singled, and Andreas Jimenez advanced the runners with a sacrifice bunt. That's the type of small ball they've succeeded with all season long, and I'm thinking, at that point, they're going to make it close at the end. And, kudos to them. They've had such a great season. But I'm going to admit it, I was resigned to defeat. I couldn't go there.
Me too.
And just as I'm going through that thought process, bang, George Springer hits, after Joe Carter, the biggest home run in this franchise's history, and completely changed the tide, won the game. Among those marveling over that home run, his teammate Nathan Lucas.
It's one of the best things that I have ever seen on a baseball field. What George just did was, he put us here. We're in the World Series because of George. Unbelievable. He's done it all year. When he's in the box, it's just the confidence that he brings out. I knew something good was going to happen. As soon as that ball left his bat, everyone knew. Everyone knew.
Yeah, I mean, everyone outside the dugout knew, too. As soon as it left his bat, it's like, oh, my goodness. It was like one of those, could this really be happening? One of those moments in sports. Reminded me of Kawhi Leonard. Right? And when the Raptors went to their championship, that was a Game 7. And the same sort of, emotions come over you. Go, wow, this changes things completely.
I just kept thinking about Springer standing there. Like, as he's standing there, he must be standing there going, if I do this, we're up, looking at the guys on base. And then to do it.
Yeah, and this is the guy, I know you know this, World Series MVP with Houston 2017, third most playoff home runs all time in a career. He's been here and done it. And he's exactly the guy they needed. Oh, and he looked like a little kid. That was one of the other beautiful things after he hit it. It's just right back to the Little League days when he looked at the spread and Vladdy in tears. Oh, it was a great night.
You like their chances against the Dodgers in the World Series. And if people hear something in my voice, Shohei Ohtani is like the best player anyone's ever, right?
Yeah.
So why do you like the Jays' chances?
Because all they've done is exceed expectations, and when people have doubted them, they've succeeded. They weren't supposed to make the playoffs. They weren't supposed to clinch their division at the end when they started to, do poorly, but they did clinch it when they had to. They fell behind against the Yankees at one point, against Seattle by 2 games, as you mentioned. And they found a way to get it done. Now, neither of those two teams, the Mariners, the Yankees, or the Dodgers, and John Schneider, the manager, knows that.
I think to get to where you want to go, you got to beat the best, right? And they're a damn good team. They got Hall of Famers up and down, top of their lineup. I truly think that the best 2 teams are left standing. I'll never count my guys out of any series. You know what I mean? It's going to be fun. They're going to be up for it. There's going to be some big swings and ebbs and flows in it, I'm sure, but I'm just thrilled for the guys that they get the opportunity.
Yeah, how poetic is they're going to face Shohei, who spurned them in free agency a couple of years ago.
Yep.
We dreamt about this happening. So it all gets underway on Friday.
So exciting. Okay, really quick here. The Jets are giving us lots to get excited about while we're waiting for the World Series to start, too.
Oh, man. Yeah. 5 straight wins now. They beat Calgary in Calgary last night 2-1. And I love this. Jonathan Taves, his first NHL goal in 921 days. He scored it tipping in a Neil Pionk power play shot from the point last night. So the Jets off to a wonderful start, just like we saw last year. Next up for them, hosting Seattle on Thursday night.
All right, we're about to hear a great story about the Jets kind of playing hockey, but also kind of watching baseball last night.
Like we all were.
Yeah. All right, good time, Scott. Thank you.
You bet.
That's Scott Reguer with Morning Sports here on CBC. We are going to just remind you that if you have any problem with your commute this Tuesday morning, to call Corey at 788-3093. So far, pretty good out there. And your news is next.
This is CBC News. Good morning. I'm Heather Wells in Winnipeg. At 7:30, it is still wet. The rain, though, will end later this morning, then cloudy, a slight chance of showers, windy today, a high of just 7. And tonight, we actually sink into the minuses, a low of -1. A grade 12 student at Sisler High School is in intensive care after surgery for a severe neck injury sustained on the football field. Darius Hartshorn of the Sisler Spartans was hurt after he was tackled in a game against the Tech Valk Hornets on Friday. Matt Henderson is the superintendent for the Winnipeg School Division.
These types of injuries are very rare. This is a unique circumstance. You know, coaches in Winnipeg School Division and other high school teams are excellent at coaching how to tackle.
The commissioner of the Winnipeg High School Football League says the player's injury is life-changing. A GoFundMe campaign has been launched to help Hartshorn's family. Manitoba has disposed of nearly $30,000 worth of U.S. liquor since it banned American-made products from its shelves. About $3.4 million worth of booze was pulled from the province's liquor stores in March after the U.S. slapped tariffs on Canadian goods. The province says the boycott has cost the American economy millions. But Carleton University Associate Professor Ian Lee says it won't impact trade relations.
Sounds like a lot to you and me and ordinary people. 30 million or 3 million of booze sounds like a lot, but in the grand scheme of trade, it's not even a rounding error. It's the equivalent of finding a penny on the sidewalk.
The province says the liquor products that were drained were wines and cream liquors that had been purchased before the ban and have since expired. Glenn Simard, Minister for Manitoba Liquor and Lotteries, puts it down to the cost of doing business in the Donald Trump era. Brandon's largest food bank is seeing a surge in demand. Staff at Samaritan House have handed out more than 14,000 hampers between January and September. Executive Director Heather Simbalisti says that's about 600 more than the same time last year.
Everything's going up, utilities are going up, rent is going up, but yet wages are not going up. So then there are sacrifices that have to be made, and lots of times that's the trip to the grocery store.
The food bank also provides food kits that don't require a kitchen, and they expect to hand out more than 2,200 of those by December, nearly 900 more than last year. The Lone Post-Secondary School in northern Manitoba is about to launch an Indigenous language program. University College of the North in Thompson will begin a 3-year Cree immersion bachelor's degree in January. UCN President Doug Lovestead says the move aligns with calls from the Truth and Reconciliation Commission to develop more language retention initiatives.
Language is culture in many respects. How you relate to the world often is through language. language and culture. So having that capacity within the institution, I think, can only benefit our students.
UCN is getting more than $2 million from the provincial government. The University of Winnipeg is also getting about the same amount for a bachelor's program of its own focused on Ojibwe language studies. That program is also expected to begin early next year. A plan to transform vacant land into supportive housing in Winnipeg is moving ahead, albeit with one fewer property in the mix. City Council's Property Committee voted yesterday to amend a plan to sell a handful of city properties for $1. The plan calls for nonprofit groups and the province to build housing on these properties for vulnerable people who need health care and other supports. The committee deleted a vacant plot on Sherbourne Street in the West End from the plan. It still requires approval from the mayor's inner circle and city council as a whole. Well, what about those Blue Jays?
For the first time in 32 years, the Toronto Blue Jays are going to the World Series.
That is the final call from the Jays' win last night over the Seattle Mariners behind a clutch 3-run home run from George Springer in the 7th inning, and the Jays beat Seattle 4-3 in Game 7 of the American League Championship Series. Springer, the hero of the night, but Vladimir Guerrero Jr. was named the series MVP. So now, on to the World Series. The Jays face the defending champion LA Dodgers in Toronto as Game 1 goes on Friday. And if you were on the edge of your seats watching last night, so were the Winnipeg Jets, even as they were playing in Calgary. Coach Scott Arniel says it was a special moment.
We were taking peeks between periods and at the start of the game, and obviously that's awesome for Canada, for the Jays. It was special. That was different. Never been in an atmosphere like that where both hockey teams, every fan, Jet fan, Flame fan, were on their feet.
By the way, the Jets won in Calgary last night, edging the Flames 2-1, and Jonathan Toews scoring his first goal as a Winnipeg Jet. You can find more on all those stories on our website this morning, cbc.ca/Manitoba.
Thank you, Heather.
Thank you.
Well, we can't get enough, so let's get more right now because we are about to talk to a fan from Winnipeg who's at the Toronto airport. He was at the game last night watching this.
This is what it's all about. A strike away for Jeff Hoffman and the Toronto Blue Jays. The payoff. He is stricken out. And for the first time in 32 years, the Blue Jays have won the pennant.
Wow, so much fun. We're going to get into weather and traffic. Nothing urgent in just a moment here in Winnipeg. But we got to talk more Jays. They're once again off to the World Series. They defeated the Mariners last night 4-3. And what a win it was, as we've been talking about on sports this morning. So lucky Winnipegger Rich Pope was at the Rogers Centre last night. He's in the airport right now. He's about to catch his flight home, and he's with us via Zoom. Hey, Rich, how you doing?
Hey, Marcy, how are you? I'm good.
How was your shuttle? I understand you just got off an airport shuttle to get to your gate.
Yeah, packed with some very, very happy Blue Jays fans, for sure.
No kidding. I love your hat. You got your Jays hat on. What was it like to be there last night?
Oh, it was off the charts. Like, obviously, that home run in the 7th inning by George Springer, I have never heard a stadium, an arena, anything get that loud all at once. Fans were high-fiving each other, hugging each other. There's fans crying, fans laughing, people sprinting down the concourse and high-fiving everybody. It was pandemonium. It was wild.
You actually were kind enough early this morning to send us some videos. So if people are watching on YouTube, they're going to not just see you, but they're going to see the stands. You shot all the people around you looking like they've known each other for a million years. Just cheering in that moment. And you gave us some other awesome pictures as well. Tell me about the mood shift, though, because let's face it, before Springer swung that bat, it was looking really like we didn't have a lot of game left, right?
No, for sure. It was after the first few innings, it got pretty tense in there, and it got kind of quiet, actually, which is surprising for a 44,500 seat stadium. It was kind of quiet because everybody was nervous. It's like, when are their bats going to start getting hot here? When are we going to start getting some runs? That kind of thing. I feel like everybody kind of knew it was coming, because in that seventh inning, you could just feel something in the building just kind of change. And everybody just, as soon as we got that, couple guys on base, the place just erupted. And it's like everybody kind of knew that we were in for something very, very big, and something very, very big did happen.
What did it feel like last night in Toronto? I mean, I don't know how late you stayed up or if you got around town to look at, the streets look packed from what we're seeing here.
Yeah, after the game, by the time we got out of the stadium, it was pushing 11:30 midnight, and so I needed to catch my train back to my airport. So I didn't get to spend downtown, out on the streets celebrating or anything like that. But just the walk from Rogers Centre to the train station, fans are all hugging, high-fiving each other, singing, chanting. It was unbelievable atmosphere. Everybody obviously in great spirits and looking forward to a World Series championship.
What do you remember about the World Series win in 92 and 93?
93, I was a teenager. I think most people that were around that time, I know that there's many Jays fans that probably weren't even born yet in 1993. But I was one of those teenagers that got to see Joe Carter hit that home run to win the World Series in 1993. And then obviously 1992, I was just reading Ed Sprague hit a pretty important home run in Jays history to help win that 1992 series as well. So the reason I went on this trip to go see this is because this does not happen very often. So I feel very fortunate, very privileged to have been here to watch this ALCS championship game 7. And hopefully I'm, able to see a World Series win for the Toronto Blue Jays as well.
How tough was it to get tickets? Like, you're there on your own, right? So tell me how this even happened.
Yeah, so I traveled on my own, but I went with my sister-in-law, who's from London, Ontario. So she came in to the game and went with me. I lucked out and got Game 7 tickets. They were just general admission, standing room only seats, or not even seats, standing room only. So we stood all day. So just, lucked out when they went on sale that I was able to purchase those tickets. Game 6, I also went to on Sunday. Those ones I purchased through, SeatGeek or whatever the website was. So, but just like being able to be in that building and just witness Game 6 and Game 7 and just see the jubilation of fans and meet complete strangers and make connections. It was just an amazing experience. It was on my bucket list of things to do.
Yeah.
And I'm extremely happy that I went because, I'm a big sports fan, and just having the ability to see that in person is kind of a bucket list thing for me.
And this is going to make people jealous, but you got your Game 7 tickets for like $115.
Yes. Yeah. Again, they were
crazy.
Standing room only. We were
You still went.
Back. Yeah, we didn't even get a rail spot because it was so busy. The lineups were out,
crazy.
Down the street outside prior to game start. So we didn't even get a spot on the railing. We were 2 people deep behind section 204, which I also thought was funny that, being from Manitoba, I was at the back of section 204. But it was a great section. Everybody was rowdy. Everybody had a great time.
So you get to go to a World Series game, Rich?
Oh, I would love to. There's no possible way I don't think I can make it to Game 1 or 2 because that's already coming up this Friday and Saturday. I'm pretty sure I won't be able to get to LA, but there's a slight chance, if I were lucky enough to get one ticket, Game 6 and 7, I could possibly squeeze it into my schedule. But I know it's a long shot because tickets do go on sale this morning for the Jays home games, and I am sure they will go fast.
Just last, I guess, does it compare last night what you, were there for and witnessed? Does it compare to anything else sports-wise you've seen? I mean, obviously we had some big playoff moments for the Jets this year and the goal with like under a second left on the clock. And
the Cole Perfetti 1.6 second to just put it into overtime. Like, so that Cole Perfetti goal obviously wasn't the game-winning goal, but just that goal there is what I can compare that to. But like,
that's the only thing I could think of.
Exactly. It's hard to compare it to anything else just because, it's a different sport. It's a different stadium. It's just, I just can't explain really last night what the feeling was. It was just pure jubilation and just like 44,000+ people just losing their minds, going crazy.
Well, we're going to let you go because I know you got to catch a plane. But if you can stick around just and listen 2 more minutes here, I'm going to play something that you might find kind of get a kick out of because you were around in 93. So I went in the archives yesterday to find out how Winnipeg was experiencing the Jays wins in 92 and 3. And I found the CBC report. It's fun because it starts with the fact that we usually really hold our noses and hate cheering for anything Toronto, like we're not going to be cheering for the Argos or the Leafs, right? But with baseball,
that is also true.
Yeah, but with baseball, what are you going to do, right? So this is a report from back then in 92. It also then talks to some little kids at the time who were excited about the Jays in school, which is fun. Maybe Rich was one of them. What we're going to hear off the top of this, though, is a local radio station that was cheering for the Jays despite their loathing of Toronto.
That team. I hate that whole city and everything they represent. And as always, when it comes around to this day of the week, we like to call Toronto and taunt the Torontonian.
A local FM station has made it a weekly habit on their morning show to phone Toronto's Argonauts and Maple Leafs and tease them about losing. But they have excluded the Blue Jays from their verbal torture.
Now, we have had a group discussion about that, and during the pennant race, and certainly now during the World Series, we have exempt the Blue Jays from the taunted Torontonian status. And that is because the entire country is behind the Jays. We have been behind the Jays. And why slit our own throats? Because we start calling down the Jays, people will jump on us. We're not idiots.
And this morning, they'd actually written a song to celebrate the Blue Jays.
The Blue Jays as they wallop the Braves. Winfield, Carter, and Alomar. The MVP will win a new...
The DJs aren't alone. School children across Winnipeg are staying up late to follow the Jays on TV and coming to school a little tired. This grade 6 class at Victor Wyatt Public School have put the Bombers and Jets on the back burner. Their team is in Toronto.
Since Winnipeg doesn't have a home team, like Blue Jays is pretty well the closest, so everybody goes for the Blue Jays, and they made it to the World Series and it makes everybody proud.
I think this is going to be more important than Paul Henderson's goal in 72, and it's going to be where were you in 92.
The Blue Jays are the best team, and most Canadians think they're the best team. It's not every day we make it to the World Series.
Indeed, this World Series is having a strange effect on Winnipeggers. Who would have thought that we'd be singing the praises of a team from Toronto?
So that's a report from the archives from 1992. That's how far back we have to go, and the Jays are on top. You didn't go to that school, did you, Rich? That you weren't one of those kids?
No, I wasn't.
Fun to listen to no matter what. Listen, have an awesome flight home. I suspect you're going to have some Jays cheering and probably announcements over the on the plane as well. Thanks for sharing your experience with us on CBC.
Thanks for having me, Marcy.
That is Winnipegger Rich Pope. He was at Game 7 of the ALCS Championship last night. The Jays have punched their ticket to the World Series. Rich is making his way home. We reached him live this morning at the airport in Toronto.
I'm sure when Rich comes back, Marcy, it's going to be more like cloudy conditions. He won't be finding rain in the city. Looking at conditions in Winnipeg right now, we saw rain overnight. That's going to be tapering off. We're seeing 4 degrees in Winnipeg, 4 in the Pembina Valley region. Brandon is at 3 degrees. Dauphin is at 1. Gimley's at 4 degrees. And up north, we're looking at 2 degrees around the Power Flame Flow and Thompson. We're just seeing 0 there, and Churchill is at 1. Most of the regions warming up to highs around, let's say, 5 for the north and 7 for southern part of the province.
All right, let's dip into traffic because we delayed that as well.
Yes, Tim called northbound St. Anne's, right at Saddle. There is an illegally parked car causing some chaos, he says, quote unquote, in the curb lanes. Keep left to get around that. As well, may still be some water. Got a call earlier this morning, just after 6, about water covering northbound Pembina at Lilac. All 3 lanes. The steward says you have to slow right down to get through it. So heads up there. Not sure whether that's a water main break or something else. Give me a call if you see anything else going on out there, though. If you're walking, biking, driving, give me a call, 204-788-3093.
The Great Canadian Baking Show is back.
Hello, beautiful bakers
and welcome to the tent.
10 contestants.
On your marks.
Get set, bake.
All hoping for the sweet smell of success.
I am at the stage of panic.
Just got to say a little prayer.
I'm in heaven.
Wow. I haven't even tasted it and I'm happy.
I forgot to put in the eggs.
Is anyone else uncontrollably shaking right now?
It's a new season of the Great Canadian Baking Show. Watch free on CBC Gem.
It is now 12 minutes to 8 o'clock on CBC. I'm Marcy Marcusa. Thanks so much for being with us this morning. We want to talk about what's coming up after 8 o'clock because this will be relevant to a lot of folks. Are you splitting time between helping your kids, raising your kids, and then also helping your aging parents? If you are, this might sound familiar.
You want to do more, you're trying to balance older and younger generations, and your mental load is just getting heavier and heavier.
If that sounds like your life, make sure you're listening after 8. We're going to talk more about the sandwich generation. We also are going to be talking about what can be done to provide better supports to people to help them out. The answer might lie not just in home care and help and funding, but it also might lie in work flexibility and emerging technology as well. So this is a continuing conversation from yesterday, a bit of a series of conversations about the sandwich generation, and it's coming up here on CBC. You are listening to The Morning Show on 89.3 FM, 990 AM on the app and on YouTube. And next on the program, if you or someone you know is in the process of applying for permanent residency in Canada, be prepared to wait. That is because it could take up to 50 years for some applications to be processed under Canada's Humanitarian and Compassionate Program. According to Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship Canada, or IRCC, other immigration programs have similar wait times of 35 years. This all comes, though, after Canada announced reductions to immigration targets last year. Reese Pactican is in studio with us, immigration lawyer here in Winnipeg. He says he's shocked by these lengthy processing times. Good morning.
Good morning, Marcy.
Tell me more about being shocked and when you heard this 50 years.
Oh, 50 years. I mean, who plans for that? I mean, there will be people who will make an application because typically when you make an application, you're already an adult who will be retirement age by the time they get here or will have died. I mean, it's just absolutely ridiculous. But the way that they've done it is they've focused on certain programs which they are clearly looking to delay and dissuade people from applying under. And they're still going at a fairly quick pace for programs where they're prioritizing, like the ones for economic immigrants, the ones for people who will be employees here, the skilled worker ones. A lot of those are still going at the 6 and 7 month range. The provincial nominee program one, they're still going at, about a year and a half or so. Some of the family ones, they're going, between 1 and 2 years. So those processes are still going relatively quickly or staying around the same. But these ones for some of the business class applicants where, they're saying, now they say on the website, they just say more than 10 years instead of saying 50. But if you actually look at the projected numbers they want to process and how many people are in their inventory, that's where you come up with like the 26 to 52 years and refugees and humanitarian. So it's really the business programs, the refugees and the humanitarian categories where the waits are going to be excessively long, where it's going to be decades or at least a decade.
You say this might be a subtle way to tell people to not bother applying.
I may be wrong on that, Marcy, because I don't think it's that subtle. I mean, if you tell people it's going to take you 10 years or so, especially let's look at the business people. One of these visas is the startup visa, which are supposed to be innovative businesses, usually tech-based businesses. If you tell them that it's going to take 10 years and they have to prove that their business is still viable and going at the 10-year mark, who in the tech industry is going to be able to stay with their business plan from 10 years ago? That tech's going to be obsoleted. They're going to move on to something else and they're going to do something different. But because their business plan is presumably different from what it was 10 years later, they're going to get refused. So why would you come as a business immigrant? Why would you want to start a business here and create jobs? If you're a refugee, why would you want to claim refugee status? And the big problem with the refugee status is, I know that there are people who say there are bogus refugees, and maybe there are, but if there are bogus refugees, why are we letting them wait and stay here for 10 years? Process them right away, and if they're bogus, kick them out. And if they're legitimate and they're really fearing for their lives, don't put them in limbo for 10 years. Tell them that this is a safe place that they can live and raise their families away from threat.
What would make the government say that this is about processing documents in a more standard delay?
Well, I mean, what it is about processing documents, but what it would be is saying, I'm going to assign one person to process these documents out of our entire staff, or I'm going to send 100 people to process these other documents for this other stream. I mean, the fact that you've got the economic immigrant streams relatively untouched. They're going at 6 months, they're going at 12 months, they're going to a year and a half, and they've got, in some of these things,
you can't have that spread if documents are a problem.
No, because
you're assigning people to process work, and that's what's causing the delay.
Because there's always
doesn't
documents.
Make any logical sense.
There's always documents.
Are you hearing from people here that this is impacting yet, or any reaction to this?
It's fairly new, but I haven't heard from everyone, but the people that you hear from, they go, well, what is going on here? This is ridiculous, and this is clearly an attempt to say don't apply. If you want to come under these categories, don't apply. What's going to be interesting on the business categories, Marcy, is that the province just last month said that they want to start business streams and they want to attract entrepreneurs here through the provincial nominee program, which will then not go through this long, 10-year process or 10-year plus process. It'll go through the faster immigration process that the province has. Manitoba's going to have to be careful now to make sure that when they choose people, that they are as sure as they can be that these people are going to set up business here, because when you're shutting down business for the rest of the country, people are going to look for any porthole in the storm. And so, when Manitoba does this, they have to make sure that the people that are the real McCoy when they're going to come here.
I just want for the listeners to have some clarity here. So we're talking about, as you said, some of the wait time, 6-7 months, a year to 2 years, not 50 years as we're saying. But for those that are going to be 35 to 50 years, the categories that, as you said on the site, say more than 10 years.
Yeah.
When we're talking about those who are in Canada on a temporary visa for school or work, how likely is it they'll get permanent residency? Like, does this touch that category of people?
Well, it does and it doesn't. So where it doesn't touch them is that normally people would have applied through the economic program, the skilled worker type of programs. But what has been happening is there's a lot of people who can't get selected. So even though you've got 6 or 7 month processing for some of these economic programs, or a year and a half, or 2 years for these economic programs, they're taking less people in. And people who would have made it 2, 3, 4 years ago are not making it now. So there's a number of those people who are trying other ways to do it. And they're trying some of these humanitarian pathways. They're trying to make refugee claims. And those are the ones that are slowing up. And there were comments that the government made last year, earlier this year, talking about we don't want people to get into the refugee stream when they're not real refugees, and the humanitarian stream when they're not when they're just people here who are desperate because, they came here and they thought that they could immigrate. It looks like this is the message that's being sent to those folks, effectively to people like international students and workers who aren't qualifying now. They're just trying to say, don't bother.
Canada, obviously, we tout ourselves as a global leader in immigration policy. How are these processing times we're talking about going to impact how we attract people in the future? Overall, I know you talked about the obvious, how could you possibly have a business case and come here with those kind of times? But do you think it's going to have a bigger impact or a chill on people thinking about Canada in the future?
It might, but it's not the processing times that are having this chill. It's the fact that we brought a whole bunch of people, allowed a whole bunch of people to come here, told them that there was a pathway to permanent residency, and last year and the year before pulled the rug out from under them. That's what's doing the most damage. Information like this, when people mine down on it and find out what categories it is, they might not be as affected. But I mean, if we're talking about damage done to the Canada brand for immigration, that damage has been done in the last 18, 24 months already. And this certainly isn't going to help the brand.
Thank you for being here, Reese. Appreciate it.
Good morning to you.
Lots of concerns raised there. If you want to weigh in, we'd love to hear from you. 788-3205. Reese Pactican's been live with us in studio, immigration lawyer here in our city. Now, in a statement, CBC did reach out. IRCC says it calculates processing times based on, quote, the number of applications received in the available space relative to the overall targets, end quote. The department said the forecast shows how long applicants might wait, quote, for a final decision, and that's based on admission targets. So that word there twice, targets. It is 3 minutes to 8 o'clock. Heather Wells is in to tell us what's developing in news this morning.
Good morning. Well, a Sisler High School football player is in intensive care after suffering a neck injury when he was tackled. Grade 12 student Darius Hartshorn was severely injured at the start of Friday's game between the Sisler Spartans and Tech Valk Hornets. He underwent surgery described by his Football League's commissioner as life-changing. A GoFundMe campaign has been launched to help his family. And the latest inflation numbers are up way up. 2.4% was inflation in September. It had been 1.9 across the country. In Manitoba, inflation in September was 2.9% from 2 the month before. I'll be back with more Manitoba news coming up at 8:30.
All right. Thank you, Heather.
Thank you.
Forecast-wise, cloudy, 5 degrees. I had been a little drizzly earlier. Now those periods of rain have ended right now, a high of 7. We still do have that 30% chance we'll see more showers today. It's going to be windy. Winds north in Winnipeg, 40, gusting to 60. Brandon is mostly cloudy and 3 degrees. Thompson's cloudy and 0. On your morning drive, it's been not too bad. Call us if you do see any major problems at 788-3093. We did hear early that water was covering 3 lanes of northbound Pembina at Lilac. Not sure if that's still an issue, but people were slowing down earlier to get through that depth of water. Coming up, we have World Report at 8 o'clock. And then, as I mentioned, ongoing conversation, series of conversations we've been having after 8 about the sandwich generation. People who are taking care of kids and their aging parents and what they need to move forward more successfully, as the number of home care and spots even for aging parents to live is dwindling. Stay tuned.
Today on Q, the filmmaker Jafar Panahi's films have been banned in his home country of Iran. He'll be here to talk about still making films in secret, being imprisoned for making anti-government propaganda, and who he was thinking of when he won the top prize at this year's Cannes International Film Festival.
Un simple accident de Jafar Panahi.
Q with Tom Power, this morning at 10:30 in Newfoundland, and on the CBC Listen app, or wherever you get your podcasts. The CBC News is next. Coming up in half an hour, it's The Current with Matt Galloway.
As aid trickles into Gaza and a fragile ceasefire holds between Israel and Hamas, we'll speak with James Elder, spokesperson for UNICEF, about what is urgently needed on the ground. That's coming up on The Current.
This is World Report. Good morning, I'm Marcia Young. The Toronto Blue Jays are heading back to the World Series. The last time that happened, 32 years ago. Late in the evening, the Jays defeated the Seattle Mariners 4-3 in Game 7 of the American League Championship Series. And as the CBC's Jamie Strachan reports, the big win was sealed by a historic swing.
And a swing and a fly ball to left field. Back goes Arozarena. She's gone!
Who else but George Springer? Down 3-1 in the 7th inning, the 36-year-old heart and soul of this Blue Jay team lifted a 3-run home run that put the Blue Jays ahead for good, earning a spot in the World Series for the first time since 1993.
I'm just so happy for everybody here, our fans, our city, our country. This is for them.
Springer's 381-foot blast set off a sustained frenzy and will take a place as a seminal moment in Toronto's long and storied sports history.
The crowd and the pop and the outfielder reaction, and it was incredible. I'll remember it forever.
And it was nuts. I've never seen anything like it. It was like we're in the locker room. People were popping beer, champagne. I'm soaked.
As it has been all year, it was a team effort, all hands on deck. Pitcher Kevin Gausman, who started 2 games in this series, came out of the bullpen and was the winning pitcher. Not surprising, says manager John Schneider.
I've said proud about 1 million times this year. Bottom of the order strikes again to set it up for the big boys, so it's how we do it. It's a total team effort, and you never know who it's going to be.
Next up, a date in the World Series with the storied Los Angeles Dodgers. Game 1, Friday in Toronto.
This is a season to remember.
Jamie Strachan, CBC News, Toronto.
Inflation is on the rise. Statistics Canada has just released its latest consumer price index report. It jumps to 2.4%, up from 1.9% in August. The CBC senior business correspondent Peter Armstrong is with me in studio. And Peter, what do these numbers tell us?
Yeah, look, this is faster, a little hotter than expected. Economists had expecting that would have come in around 2.2%. So you can see the conundrum. The drivers of this are interesting, too, that gas prices, a little bit counterintuitively here, gas prices actually fell month over month, but they fell less than they did back in September a year ago. So what they call the base effect is in play here. That just gives a lot of weight to the yearly change rather than the actual difference month to month. The other big one here, Marcia, is food. 4% increase in groceries, 3.3% increase in food purchased from restaurants. Rent is up 3.8%. This is a pretty broad-based and, as I say, a little bit hotter than expected growth in CPI.
All right. Thank you so much, Peter.
You bet.
The CBC senior business correspondent Peter Armstrong live with me in studio. Jeremy Farkas is the new mayor of Calgary. He beat Sonia Sharp by less than 600 votes. Almost 350,000 were cast, and counting the ballots took all night. Jyoti Gondek lost her bid for re-election by placing third. She explains why she feels she lost.
I think people are tired, and I think a lot of people gave up. I think a lot of folks were struggling with affordability. They were struggling with the teacher strike. And they're very much struggling with what they're seeing online. I can tell you that the vitriol and the hatred is jarring, and it's something that I've experienced over the last 4 years.
All the ballots still have not been counted in Edmonton. Israel is facing criticism from a key Mid-East regional player. The Emir of Qatar is a key mediator in achieving the ceasefire. He is accusing the Israeli government of violating the Gaza deal. The condemnation comes as the U.S. Vice President arrives in Israel. J.D. Vance is there to bolster the fragile agreement. He will be meeting with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu in an effort to move the peace deal into the next phase. A federal appeals court is allowing U.S. President Donald Trump to send the National Guard to Portland. The panel of judges ruling 2-1 in favor of the president's move. This decision could lay the groundwork for the administration's plan to send troops into other cities. The CBC's Willie Lowry joins me now. And Willie, what is next?
Well, despite the legal win, no National Guard troops can be deployed to Portland, at least for the time being. That's because a second temporary restraining order issued earlier this month is still in force, though it too is expected to fall along the same legal basis. The Federal Appeals Court overturned a previous temporary restraining order blocking President Trump from sending Oregon National Guard members into Portland. At the heart of their decision was whether the president accurately assessed the situation in Portland and whether he had the statutory authority to send in the National Guard. The majority said yes. The administration hailed the ruling as a victory. Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem said it vindicated them. But the case will likely not stop here. Both sides have until midnight Wednesday to file papers that could lead to a rehearing by a larger panel of judges.
What does this mean for other cities that are fighting against Trump's push to send in the National Guard?
It's likely a blow. The federal appeals was clear in its ruling that it believes the president was within his right to deploy the National Guard to Portland for the reasons he said. But there are other cases still at play. The Trump administration has asked the Supreme Court to allow them to deploy the National Guard to Chicago. The country's highest court is expected to respond as early as this week to that request. And Trump has also set his sights on San Francisco and is threatening to deploy the National Guard there as well, saying the city, quote, went wrong, went woke.
Thank you, Willie.
My pleasure.
The CBC's Willie Lowry in Washington. Former French President Nicolas Sarkozy is beginning his 5-year prison sentence. Sarkozy waves at supporters outside his home as he's driven away. Moments later, he's greeted by crowds outside the prison in Paris. Sarkozy was convicted of conspiracy for accepting money from Libya to finance his election campaign. He served as France's president between 2007 and 2012. He's the first elected leader of France to serve time in prison. Japan has elected its first female prime minister. 64-year-old Sanae Takaichi is a conservative. Takaichi supports the imperial family's male-only succession. She opposes same-sex marriage and allowing separate surnames for married couples. Takaichi inherits a troubled economy and an unresolved U.S. trade deal. In New Delhi, The city is blanketed by smog after Diwali celebrations. The night sky lit up with firecrackers and fireworks for the Festival of Lights. But the smoke from those celebrations has now contributed to the city's hazardous air quality. Air quality agencies say New Delhi is the world's most polluted major city. They were sent to the Vatican more than a century ago. Now Indigenous artifacts and cultural heirlooms are being returned to their communities in Canada. The move follows years of talks between the Catholic Church, Indigenous leaders, and Ottawa. Megan Williams has more from Rome.
The objects, including a rare century-old Inuvialuit sealskin kayak, were sent to Canada here to Rome for the Vatican's World Exhibition in 1925. They've since been held in the Vatican museums. Now, sources tell CBC they'll be back in Canada before the end of the year, a gift to Canadian bishops with the explicit understanding that they will then hand the items over to Indigenous communities. The items will first go to the Canadian Museum of History in Gatineau, which has the proper facilities to preserve them. There, experts will analyze the objects to confirm their origins before a committee of Indigenous representatives decides where they should go. A source told CBC the handoff is church to church, not directly with Indigenous representatives, allowing the Vatican to avoid setting a precedent of returning artifacts directly to nations or peoples demanding them. It took the same approach when handing the Parthenon marbles to the Greek Orthodox Church instead of the Greek government 2 years ago. The return of the Indigenous artifacts marks another step in reconciliation and the end of a long journey for cultural objects that have been out of reach of the communities that want them back home. Megan Williams, CBC News, Rome.
And the most read story at cbcnews.ca is about Calgary votes, the live results from Calgary's 2025 election. You can find that at cbcnews.ca on our main page. That is the latest national and international news from World Report. I'm Marcia Young.
Well, good morning, Manitoba. We remain a little bit, a little dark out there. It's going to be a cloudy day ahead after the rain yesterday. We still have a chance of showers in Winnipeg today. Thanks for being with us. It is Tuesday, October 21st, and this is CBC 89.3 FM, 990 AM on that app and on YouTube. This half hour on the show, we're going to continue our conversation about the sandwich generation. We had a family on yesterday talking about what it's like. This family has an 11-year-old at home and also an 80-year-old at home. They're caring for the kids and they're also caring for aging parents. But what are the supports that are needed as more and more families find themselves in that situation? We'll have that discussion this half hour. It doesn't all lie in healthcare supports either. Some of what could help, according to our guest, is going to be emerging technologies. Stay tuned. Before we get there, let's go to Heather Wells. She's live in our news center this morning with other headlines. Good morning.
Good morning. Well, a grade 12 student at Sisler High School is in intensive care after surgery for a severe neck injury sustained on the football field. Darius Hartshorn of the Sisler Spartans was hurt after he was tackled in a game against the Tech-Voc Hornets on Friday. The commissioner of the Winnipeg High School Football League says the player's injury is life-changing. Brandon's largest food bank is seeing increased demand. Staff at Samaritan House have handed out more than 14,000 hampers between January and September. Brandon's Helping Hands Soup Kitchen is also seeing more people walking through its doors. Now, as food costs rise, inflation is also up. We're going to hear the numbers just released this morning. I'll be back with more Manitoba News at 8:30.
Thanks, Heather.
Thank you.
All right, Abby, the weather.
Yeah, we're looking at 4 degrees in Winnipeg right now, cloudy outside. Yeah, the rain tapered off, but there's still a slim chance of showers in the forecast. And then we'll see the winds coming from the northwest later. We warm up to about 7 degrees today. Tonight, some clouds are still going to be hanging around. And then we will see our first minus for this part of the province later tonight. For Winnipeg, we drop to about -1 later. Across the southern part of the province, Morden is at 4 degrees, Brandon at 3, Dauphin at 1, and Gimli at 3 degrees. degrees right now. Most of the regions I mentioned will hover between 6 and 7 degrees today, while up north, we're still seeing 0 to 3 degrees and warming up only to 5. Winnipeg right now, we are at 4 degrees.
All right, thanks, Abby.
Thank you.
Corey Funk.
Couple things to look out for on the roads. Got a call from Tim about half an hour or so ago. Northbound St. Anne's Road at Sadler. There's an illegally parked car, he said, in the curb lane. So keep left to get around that. He says it's causing some pretty big backups. May still be an issue as well. Heard earlier this morning around 6, may be an issue as well. Northbound Pembina at Lilac. Stewart called to say that the road completely covered with water. You have to slow right down to get through that big puddle. All 3 lanes underwater. Not sure why. Could be a water main break. If you see anything else still going on, give me a call on the CBC commuter line. That number, 204-788-3093.
Well, today we are continuing our look at the sandwich generation. These are people who are taking care of elderly parents and children at the same time in their homes. According to Statistics Canada, 86% of, quote, sandwich caregivers say that their care responsibilities affected at least one aspect of their health and their well-being. And yesterday on the program, we were hearing from one family that is working with their mom and their daughter. Mitzi Monaco has a 10-year-old daughter. Her mom is 80. While she says she loves doing this, and it's part of her Filipino culture to try to model caring for her elderly loved one at home, there are some challenges.
Financially, of course, well, let's be honest as well, right? Because that's why I only have one child. So, like here in Canada, like you have to be financially stable as well, to you can give everything to your family.
Mitzi also shared with CBC that she is lucky to have all the help and flexibility from her husband, who also helps with scheduling because there's appointments around the clock for someone in the house, and they often have to trade off those responsibilities. And she's lucky because her mother has healthcare benefits in Canada, but she's still paying for a lot of things that aren't covered, some insurance and pills. And she says her brain's exhausted after work. Well, let's talk about the sandwich generation and what can be done to help people. Laura Tamblin-Watts is author of Let's Talk About Aging Parents, a real-life guide to solving problems with 27 essential conversations. She's the Chief Executive Officer of CanAge, which is a seniors advocacy group. Good morning.
Good morning.
So what's your reaction to hearing sort of some of those pieces of Mitzi's reality with her family?
It's such a compelling narrative that I think so many of us can relate to. You want to do more. You're trying to balance older and younger generations, and your mental load is just getting heavier and heavier. Also, her thoughts about how important it is to have someone else help out, her husband in this case, to relieve her or to take a little part of that. And that's not something everybody has. And then overwhelmingly, that financial concern. She's only having one kid because she thinks that that's what she can afford. And she's worried about all the things that aren't covered. And that's not just someone who's moved to Canada. Folks, of course, often find out that things that they thought would be publicly covered aren't just when they need them.
She shared that part of the juggling part about, she's lucky enough to have a flexibility in her workplace. But it's not like she has flexibility to go and take her mom to a critical appointment and then not put those hours back. So she's still having, to put out that energy all the time. What do you think workplaces could improve, just to start there, with to make it easier for the sandwich generation?
People ask me, what do you think that workplaces can do to make themselves more appealing to people? Is it snacks at the office? Is it a little bit of hybrid work? And I say, no, it's caregiving leave. It's actually caregiving leave. As the old saying goes, there's only 4 kinds of people: those who are giving care, those who are receiving care, those that will need care, and those that have already gotten care. And that's all of us together. When we think about some of the flexibility that we have around care leave, it may have been maternal or paternal leave. Possibly there might be a little bit of bereavement leave, but mostly what people need is a little bit of help to take mom to her doctor's appointment, particularly when mom lives an hour and a half away. And not having some of that work flexibility And I mean that in terms of an actual leave, particularly when someone needs a hip replacement or dad's had a stroke. Those are the things that burn people out. And those are the types of things that actually make people break down because they just can't do it all at the same time. So little bits of flexible caregiving leave go a long way.
What about in the home? I mean, obviously, a lot of this conversation for us in Manitoba started because we were looking at some of the challenges around home care and the improvements they're trying to make. We know there's access to home care services, but what other supports are available to someone who might not be able to rely on home care, or if you have a parent in assisted living? Like, is there something that is missing there that might help that sandwich generation do better?
In many cases, it's actually technology. And one of the great things is that some of the technology that we have doesn't feel like healthcare monitoring anymore. It's the phones, it's the types of watches that we have, it's our televisions and so forth. And many people don't realize that there's some great age tech. One of our networks of centers of excellence called AgeWell is a technology and aging specialist hub. And part of what they do is promote different kinds of smart technologies, including sensors in the sofa. So you see people as they're moving, actually toilets that can actually analyze how a person's doing and do they have a urinary tract infection, sensors in the floor. So if someone's fallen, which is one of the big concerns, you don't have to worry about getting that lifeline or that button. We can tell that somebody has fallen and they have not yet been managed to get themselves up. So technology is a big piece, and we're getting more comfortable with technology as we age. And I think that can really help because frankly, person power is going to be shorter in supply, not greater in supply. We used to think about at 4-to-1 as the ratio for every older person. There'd be 4 people as who would be helping you out. Now it's the inverse. I'm the Gen X generation. We have 1 person for every 4 older people, and that's not including the kids or, in fact, even grandkids. So we need to use technology better.
Um, what do you think caregivers should keep in mind about when it is too much? Because I know that that's a very difficult moment to come to sometimes, especially, if you have the person, in your home living with you. No one ever wants to say it's too much, right? But the reality is you might start getting into things that are beyond your ability to deal with in terms of healthcare needs, and then that could create some dangerous situations potentially.
It absolutely can. The degree of frailty and health need that we are now taking care of by people who are untrained, people who are not healthcare professionals, but that 75% of all family and friends providing free care to someone in our close circle. Mostly we don't know how to give injections. We haven't had first aid training on how to get a person who's fallen up or make sure that their spine is aligned. Very high needs care is now being downloaded. So we need to make sure that we have increased training for people. Think about the old babysitting training that many of us used to do when we were 12 or 13. We need to get those types of training situations for those family and friends because we need to actually know what is a dangerous situation and what is not. If we have a really strong smell of urine, are we worried about incontinence? Yes. But are we also worried that they may have a kidney infection or a urinary tract infection that also may be giving them some confusion mentally? So we do need to upskill our volunteer workforce. And the reality of a circumstance is we have to actually start planning ahead for cognitive impairment, right? And most people who have cognitive impairment will not go into long-term care, if ever. And if they do, it's really in the last 18 months. That means we all need to become dementia ready, and we're far from that now.
In terms of why we don't hear more about this, the needs around this, do you think it's because people feel like talking about it somehow is could be seen negatively by their family, or that a family member might feel like they're a burden?
Now it's the type of thing that we're starting to see around the dinner table. If you get people together, and I think especially women, we're not just talking about our kids, we're talking about what's going on with mom and dad or those that are close to us. But most people are tearing their hair out or just wanting to collapse because they haven't had a moment's of sleep. People are burning out, and that's one of the problems about caring for the caregiver. We know that people who are across that sandwich, or as I like to say, a club sandwich, because we're many generations together, they sometimes die first or have that stroke first or have that heart attack first because they're completely drained. We need to destigmatize the fact that you can't do it alone, and we need to come up with some more respite services and we know what can work. We just need to provide them so that people can get a bit of a break in that hypervigilance can just calm down for a little bit. The guilt is real. In my book, Let's Talk About Aging Parents, I have a lot of strategies for how to organize your life, how to organize the home, how to organize technology. There's a whole chapter on guilt. How do you manage your guilt? How do you manage the sense of social stigma? And what I can say is it is the issue for these generations that we're in right now.
You just said we also know we need more respite services and we know what they are. What would you add to the system that would help?
Many people just need the break for the weekend or some place to go where that person is getting action and activated care. What is hugely helpful is a morning program or an afternoon program with a person who's got, say, frailty and maybe some cognitive impairment to go. They're getting an exercise class. People who have cognitive impairment can still do things and they should do things. So let's have exercise classes with a cup of coffee afterwards. We know that that model works really well, keeps those social connections alive for the person who needs some support and care. They get to be with their peer group. And everybody else just gets a couple of hours to do the grocery shopping or to get that PowerPoint presentation done. Now, I would never equivocate younger child care and older adult care, but the needs of the person providing care isn't very different. Sometimes you need a weekend off. Sometimes you need to be able to go on holiday without that constant worry. And that's where having a place like an assisted living facility or a retirement home where a person can go for a couple of weeks at a time, sometimes particularly in Canadian rural areas for winter, where it's just too dangerous to be alone, lets that person who's otherwise managing as a caregiver just take a break. And in many cases, the older person or the person in care needs gets better because they are more socially engaged with those close to them. So bits of time like we all need to be provided for the person who needs care as much as the caregiver.
Yeah, that stimulation for people. Just last, what about if you're in that difficult spot where you need to have a conversation? Like, what's the best time to have that difficult conversation with your parents as they age? And usually that's going to be, it's not safe for you to be in your home anymore, perhaps, or where might you want to be? You know, with us at a facility, it looks different in every family, but how do you approach that and when would you start thinking about that?
Well, the easy answer is, of course, we should all have these conversations 20, 30 years before we have, but we just need to give our head a shake. That's not what's going to happen, and that's not what real people do. When I wrote my book, Let's Talk About Aging Parents, it wasn't just the topic areas, it was literally scripts. If your dad is like this, try this script. If your mom is like this, try this script, because there isn't a one size fits all. But one of the things I will say is try not to swoop in and tell people what to do. That's not going to work. Listen and ask advice. Make sure that you're able to have the conversation no matter what the taboo is. So let's just say my mother doesn't want to talk about finance or health, which is, by the way, true. I can talk about it in a proxy. Hey, what about your friend, Mrs. So and so? Where is she right now? How is she doing? Oh, she's at that terrible retirement home. Okay, mental note. She doesn't like that one. What about this friend of yours? What are they up to? Oh, she's actually out with her daughter right now, and she goes to this program every Wednesday. Really? That sounds wonderful. We should check that out sometime. So you can sometimes have these proxy conversations without really confronting it. And last, I'd say this, talk about things as if they were in a case of emergency, not that you're going to get old and decline and become decrepit. Say, I have to get that knee fix that I broke skiing sometime. I got to get around to it. But I was just thinking, I don't know what I would do if I couldn't drive. Have you thought that? I'd love your advice on that. Probably they have thought about it, but making it about you or asking their advice allows people to come up and talk about things without being confronting and feeling defensive.
Smart, smart, smart. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Liquor products were wines and cream liquors that had been purchased before the ban and had since expired. A northern Manitoba school is getting an Indigenous language bachelor's degree program. University College of the North in Thompson will launch its Cree immersion program in January. UCN President Doug Lovestead says the move aligns with calls from the Truth and Reconciliation Commission to develop more language retention initiatives.
In northern communities, the overpowering presence of a loss of language is something that many of the elders and community leaders sort of bemoan, that we really need to find a way to restore language and get language back and get young people speaking their language.
UCN is getting more than $2 million from the provincial government. The province is giving the University of Winnipeg about the same amount for a bachelor's program of its own focused on Ojibwe language studies. A plan to transform vacant land into supportive housing in Winnipeg is moving forward, albeit with one fewer property in the mix. City Council's Property Committee has voted to amend a plan to sell a handful of city properties for $1. The plan calls for nonprofit groups and the province to build housing on these properties for vulnerable people. The committee deleted a vacant plan on Sherbourne Street in the West End from the plan. It still requires approval from the mayor's inner city. Well, the Toronto Blue Jays, as we've been telling you, are headed to the World Series.
And for the first time in 32 years, the Blue Jays have won the pennant.
What a great sound. The Toronto Blue Jays beating the Mariners last night 4-3 the final in a stunning comeback for Toronto after a nerve-wracking start to the American League Series. Toronto now goes on to face the Dodgers in the World Series starting on Friday. Now, if you were on the edge of your seat watching last night, so were the Winnipeg Jets playing in Calgary. Coach Scott Arniel says it was a special moment.
We were taking peeks between periods and at the start of the game, and obviously that's awesome for Canada, for the Jays. It was special. That was different. Never been in an atmosphere like that where both hockey teams, every fan, Jet fan, Flame fan, were on their feet.
I think everyone across the country was on their feet, although it was a late one. By the way, the Jets won in Calgary last night, 2-1 against the Flames. Jonathan Toews scoring his first goal as a Winnipeg Jet. You can find more news updated throughout the day at cbc.ca/Manitoba.
I just want to take a second to say, as a baseball fan, people need to know how hard it is to get there. Like, I think the number is something like 167 games in regular season. Never mind all the postseason stuff. This is a lot of work. So lots to cheer for. Thank you, Heather.
Thank you.
Let's cheer for the people that worked on the show today. Dylan Longhurst, Sierra Sanders, Jenna Bedosso, and Jim Agapito, Joni Nicolo, Megan Ketchison, Heather Wells, and our live team, Corey Funk, Abby Adeyemi, and Darren Marash, as well as producers Leif Larson and Nellie Gonzalez. Corey, what do you know?
King Edward, there's a lane closure. Southbound curb lane closed for gas work until October 23rd. So might be a little backed up there.
Abby.
Most of the regions down south, we're seeing 4 degrees there, except for Dauphin, where we see 1. Most regions will warm up to 7 today, while up north we'll see 5 degrees and 0 in some parts. And some parts of the north will see -8 tonight.
Yeah, we're getting there. All right, thanks, Abby. Take care, be well, Manitoba. Thanks for listening to this edition of Information Radio here on CBC. I'm Marcy Marcusa. This is 89.3 FM, 990 AM on that app and YouTube. Any feedback, pass it along at 788-3205. Otherwise, we will talk to you tomorrow. Have a good one.